Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic in 3D.
Every single time I hear that, I think we have the worst name for a show on the planet.
Bong.
Welcome everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to episode number 35 of Nerdtastic in 3D. My name is Jason Carter.
35.
Oh, God, you actually...
I'm Jack Gackler.
Okay. And, you know...
Is it 35?
I think so. You've got me questioning now. I'm pretty sure. If not, it's 30-something.
36.
Cover all the bases.
So, that's really it from the regular Nerdtastic crew. It's just Jack and I this evening.
But do you need anybody else?
No, but... we have brought in some people to fill in, and not only fill in, we're thinking of actually booting them and bringing you guys on full-time.
You guys might go full-time.
Absolutely.
Good choice, I think.
So joining us is from Disney Mobile, Pecho and Sean Kearney.
It's actually pronounced Pecho.
Is it? Is it really?
Jeez.
Ooh,
This is off to a bad start.
Had to clear that up,
This
you
is
know?
Pecho?
Pecho,
I didn't know that.
He's not taking the job now.
It is
the
Great.
first,
I'm out.
that's the
It's good.
first
I'm
thing
gonna
that you
drop the mic.
said.
And take
Or
number
push
two.
it away from my face.
Yeah.
Put your beer down. You get no more beer.
So I have been incredibly big fans of your guys's for a long time, and we've been friends for a long time, and I'm so glad you can finally have you on the show. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, of course. Can I just get some business out of the way, though? After the show, are we just supposed to go up front to pick up our checks? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
who deals with that?
They're waiting for you in Jack's car. Okay. So
Perfect,
you can just see him and
your spot's in the trunk.
meet him at
Excellent,
his
yeah.
remote controlled
Keep
trunk.
going. Keep going. No. Further.
So it has been a few weeks, and we apologize about that. We were out for SIGGRAPH one week, and last week Jack and I set up the recording and then forgot to hit the button and just sort of talked for 2 hours.
No shit, that really happened. And it was just me and Jason again.
And I know Dan right now is probably just absolutely hating me for that, and I'm sorry, Dan. But we've got some business to cover. So first and foremost, we're just going to break into this.
Dive in, dude.
Because it's been too long. So about a month ago, beginning of July... let me back up a second. We have a thing that we do on the show called a weekly challenge. And the weekly challenge is something where we challenge ourselves, listeners, to do something big, something small, doesn't matter. We've had examples
that we come up with.
Yeah, things that we come up with. Do 15 push-ups in a row.
Right.
Tip somebody higher than you would normally tip
Right.
at any given time. Try a new beer. All kinds of different things.
Masturbate with your offhand.
Well, that's
That's what I'm saying.
That
See, this is why they should be on the show.
That was actually a challenge.
that's like giving yourself a bigger tip than you usually would.
I like that. It's true. We combined them. And so beginning of July, we actually said we're going to do something a little bit different. Most of us are Xbox players. And we said we are going to challenge ourselves as a group, the 5 of us, to collectively come up with 5,000 gamer score. So each one of us were basically responsible for 1,000 points within a 1-month period. So you could choose to do that however you wanted. You could take all the easy achievements for, a whole bunch of games.
There's no easy achievements, mind you.
That is not true. There
You
are ones
think
where
so?
it's like turn on the game and you get
I can get you 1,000 in 5 minutes.
Hold on.
Same game, one button.
Just wait for it.
Hold on.
Wait for it.
You might be jumping
Just
ahead
wait
of us
for
here.
it. Just wait
So we challenged ourselves to this. I actually pulled the challenge out and tried to get everybody on board with this. And I definitely play lots of different types of games, have a big variety, and I'm big into I like achievements. I think it's fun style of play. So I thought it'd be fun because anybody could participate in any different way. Because you can get achievements for multiplayer, you can get achievements for all kinds of games. So you can kind of pick and choose and cater it to how you want it. But each person was responsible for 1,000 points. And at the end, if the group did not collectively get 5,000, then all of us lost. First and foremost, before we get to the results, I want to just say that I have not heard so much whining and complaining from this group of people in my entire time.
Me
of
in
knowing them.
particular. I'll go
Not
ahead and
just
take,
you.
No, but I'll take a
I would
lot
actually,
of the blame.
I would actually argue that our good friend Sean had a good amount of it too. They were not happy about this challenge.
I hated that every bit of it.
So here's what I will tell you is that Adam's pretty much game for anything. You can pretty much ask him to do anything and he will do it. So Adam was like all on board. I definitely was on board. Jack and Sean were a little bit more hesitant, let's say, not super stoked about it. You had gotten 100 points in like 3 weeks. And and we had 30
and that was
days.
actually somewhat.
Were you actually
I
playing?
don't play
Yeah.
games like that.
You don't get
Here's the thing.
achievements for watching movies on Netflix.
That's unfortunate, too.
I know.
The games that I own, most of those achievements were gone. By the time this whole weekly
true.
thing, they're gone.
Yeah.
And then the ones that weren't, there's a reason they were there. I don't play a game to I'm just not one of those guys who plays the game through to get all of that. And mostly playing like Call of Duty, like I'm addicted to now. Like I want to play with my friends. My friends are on, and I log in and I want to jump on with him. And that,
Hey, friends are way overrated.
yeah. And
Agreed.
where Jason plays games, and it's cool to get all of those.
Well, friends aren't quantifiable, whereas gamer score is.
The ladies love a good
true
gamer
story.
score.
They do.
I didn't realize that till
If you can attach a number to it, women love it.
and
And if you just go to Best Buy to the $5 bin, you can get a whole bunch of new games.
Oh yeah.
Great
and I went
achievements in
that.
those games.
I went.
Okay.
So
I even
before-
went that approach.
Oh.
Well, I did. I was gonna buy the Lego Indiana Jones
yeah,
because you
yep.
said to do that. I'm like,
Yep.
I'm at Kohl's.
Very easy games to max out 1,000
Yeah.
points on. By the way, every Xbox game that comes out, I think part of Microsoft's thing is that you have to have 1,000
1,000,
points worth of achievements to achieve.
Right. Well, it's also time played. Like some of these are just you're having to put in a lot of time. And my time at nights, get home, play with the kid, bed. Or whatever time in between that and going to bed.
Teach the
Your
kid to play
time-
Lego Indiana
Your
Jones.
time
He'll
is
get you the
actually you get home, play with the daughter, put her down, spend a little time with the wife, and then you play games for about 3 hours, and then you go to bed. So really, the excuse is not there.
It's still not
There
a lot of
is
hours.
no excuse.
Still not a lot of hours. He's absolutely right.
There is
though.
no excuse. So the one thing that I've intentionally left out here is our friend Josh, who you guys met. He was very suspiciously quiet the whole time. Each week that went by, he's pretty much like, "Don't worry about it." We're like, "What do you mean? How's it going for you?" He's like, "I got it covered." And we're like, because I play a lot of games, and 1,000 points in 30 days, it can be a challenge. It can be a challenge if you depending on how you do it, but it can be tough. So Josh, this whole time is pretty much going, "I got it. Don't worry about it." And we're like, what? He's oddly cocky about this.
And I'm thinking obvious crap for myself even. I'm at the point of this challenge going, can I pay a kid that I'm not there to log in and just play these fucking games? Like I'm just thinking, how do I buy my way out of this? I told Jason, I was like, can I give you $10 to just tell everybody I got gamer score?
And I
That
thought
didn't
there
go
was,
over.
I thought there was, I'm going to be honest with people, I thought there was so much complaining and frustration that might be the end of the challenges for Nerdtastic in 3D. But
No, it wasn't gonna be
But-
that bad, but it sucked.
but then you have a barbecue for your birthday. Happy birthday, Jack.
I did.
Big 3-6.
Yep.
Congratulations.
36.
Not the number.
That how you say it.
Not the number of this podcast. So Jack had a birthday party, and I find out that he has learned why Josh is so cocky. Sean's laughing because I think he already knows.
Well, I knew about it before my birthday.
So-
That's just when we decided to let you
Let me in on this.
on what was.
So what happens was we were there.
Do you want to
and
know the
Sean-
story, that part you don't know, or do you want to tell them from when that happened?
Well, hold on. So the part that I know from my perspective is we're at the party. I know you're all of a sudden very cocky, like, I got this. And I'm like, you went from the ultimate whiny complainy to don't worry about it. And I'm like, something clearly
I
is
had
going
about
on.
120 points,
At
mind
day
you was tough to get the 120.
At day like 26 maybe of 30.
Easy at 26.
So then Sean walks in, and Sean's got this big grin on his face, and he's like, all right, and he hands Jack something. And then we proceed to find out. Go ahead.
So probably 2 or 3 episodes ago, this is when Josh had done this. Don't worry about me, because Jason would bring it up. How you guys doing? Because this bastard and his brother-in-law were getting legit points. They were like at 700, 800 points, and they were at each other. And me and Josh were like, "What do you got?" I got like 25. And
Adam and I. turned it
Sean
into
actually
a-
had points. Sean had like around
500,
600.
yeah.
But he hated it because he was having to play games he didn't even like. He's just like, this sucks.
He said it felt like a chore, like playing games is a chore, which he didn't want.
It did. Like it became a chore. And so he was hating it. And then So we're packing up, and everybody's walking out of the room, and I grab Josh. I go, "You son of a bitch! You tell me. You tell me. You sandbagger. You tell me what you have in your pocket." And he's like, "Nah, I don't want. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "I'm your best friend. You tell me." and he's like, "Come here, man." And he pulls out his phone, and he goes to YouTube, and he goes, and it just as soon as he said YouTube, my mind went, "I'm an idiot," because I know what I should have typed in. And he hands it and shows it to me, and I just look. And I go, "This is impossible." And he goes, "Go ahead, watch it again." I go, "Okay." And I go, "Do you have it? Said product." And we won't go there yet. And he goes, "No, I'm going to go rent it." And I'm looking at this. I go, "Well, we're going to, Blockbusters are not existent." And I'm like, "You're not going to get," and we have like less than a week left. And of course, as soon as I get home, I jump online. I'm like, "I'm buying this son of a bitch." and believe it or not, for when it came out, it was not cheap. And I next dayed it to get here. I spent a retarded amount on this game, mind you.
That's dedication.
It was a return because, like I said, I'm gonna throw money at it. If I can't beat it, I'm gonna throw money at it until I get it. So it comes in the mail. And Josh he found a place to rent it, like in La Alhambra
for like
somewhere.
95 cents.
Yeah, 95 cents. I've now spent
some guy's trunk.
Yeah,
He built a time machine to go back to 2006.
I think that's when it came out or something like that. And I spent $40, I think, on this thing. Yes, exactly. And it comes to the house, and I sit down and I make a call, and I'm like, this is after my 3 hours. Like you said, this is late at night. This is like 2, and I'm like, I finished Call of Duty. I'm like, I gotta go, guys. I got something. Like, man, I'm tired. I'll try it.
Hold on, before you say this. Most of the time when you earn, I would say most games when you're earning points, you get 10, maybe 20.
This is crucial.
Maybe 50 on a really challenging one.
Right.
And so by the point you had gotten said product, right about this time, I had earned 1,200 points.
You were already on your own.
Genuinely.
Genuinely.
What games were you earning them on?
It was I beat Halo Reach on Legendary. Wow. Hadn't done that yet. That was one. There were a couple of others. The Gunstringer I earned a few on.
Okay.
Portal.
Yes.
Or had you already had all
Co-op
those?
with Portal with Adam. Earned a few. And then there's something else I'm missing. Bastion, I think.
Minecraft.
Oh wow.
Oh, Minecraft. Thank you. I earned 400 in Minecraft. There were still a few that were freaking challenging.
Yeah, those aren't. I mean, I'd say probably Portal was maybe the most straightforward of those, but
yeah,
the majority of those, like Bastion, it's an RPG. It's a fucking big game.
Yes.
And Bastion is a live arcade game.
Yeah.
Which means that they don't give out 1,000. They give out 200 or 250 or something.
I think it's 4.
And that's the thing. I thought I could do that.
It's 400.
Like,
now.
I'm going to buy a bunch of these arcade games. And
they're even harder.
They're worth like 150.
And I got a few.
That running game. The Doritos free
Crash
game.
Course.
It's a
free.
free.
Oh, yeah.
But you get 200 points. And that shit is hard. It is really hard.
We just run around as a chip or something?
No, it's actually
it's
so
a
it's a
game.
really
It's like
well
Wipeout.
designed game.
It really is.
It's a really,
fun.
but it was because I've been chasing achievements for a while. I went through like a year period where I was, me and a couple coworkers chased achievements, and all the Doritos games were
Harm's
just
Way?
like, oh, Harm's Way.
That's another good one.
Just
That-
pick them up,
Dude,
boom.
we talked about this on the show. We did a evening where we all played Harm's Way together. Crashed every one of our Xboxes.
Really?
No
It
joke.
did. By the end of it, like we just all blacked out and we called each other like, dude, your Xbox just shut off? What the hell?
Yes.
Did you guys do Aegis Wing? I think it's AEGIS
We
Wing.
didn't do that one.
It's a free game. I think it's still available.
So
and
Doritos
it's-
didn't put this one out.
This isn't Doritos. This is
Okay.
Microsoft. 4 interns at Microsoft made this game, and in like 2 or 3 runs, you can get all 200 or 400 or whatever it is.
What about the Burger King games?
Those are really hard. Those are like
I
very
have
difficult.
I have one of those at home, and no shit, I have. It's still in the wrapper. I should have did that.
Do that.
Sneak King.
Sneaking.
Very difficult.
That's what it
games,
was.
though.
Isn't there a
That's
little
what it
was.
trike
It's hard.
one too?
All right. So go ahead.
So yeah,
finish
so
your story.
you
put in said product.
Well, we can say said product. So because I saw our cohorts over here whispering it to each other. What was funny I left out is, and to say the game's name, is I had ran to 2 Santa Clarita GameStops before ordering this. Oh no, I got worried it wasn't going to come in. I next dayed it, and I was so worried it wouldn't, because Josh took it back the next day. I'm like, shit, I need to get this game. So I went to GameStop, and every time I would pick up Avatar,
Not the blue people.
is what they would tell me. I'd walk up and I'd go, is this, because it would be in the U's down at the bottom, and I said, it'd be in the A's, and I'd bring it up, and I said, is this is this Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is crucial to this because that's the game you need to play. And he goes, blue people. And it both times, both stories, the guy said the same shit to me. And what I've come to the conclusion, and also why it cost me $40 for said game, is that I think a lot of people buy it for that kind of crap, for these challenges and whatnot. And it was like a collector's item online. Like Amazon, it's like, yeah, buy used for 40. Yeah, some went up into the 70s for this
That's
game.
crazy.
And it came in, and it was 2.5 minutes.
It's one button.
What?
You hit.
You can
B,
do it on the first level.
Now,
you hit B 5 times.
yeah,
or something.
I moved. I moved to the left, which we'll get to, which was funny because Adam tried to do it by just hitting it. So I moved to the left, and what's crazy is like what Jason was saying is the increments you get points. So there's these combos, and these guys come down, and as your air hits them, you're getting these combos. The first one, 150. I'm like, bring. I'm like, what? Next one, 250, 400. And then by the last one, you're like 300. Are you like, you kidding me?
Literally, I
Wait,
honestly
that's all
think
the achievements?
Josh,
are just
yeah,
points?
1,000
Yeah.
points.
There's five achievements.
5 achievements, 1,000 points,
And
all
Josh-
within the first 2 minutes.
Josh time-stamped it. He took a picture of the timestamp on his Xbox.
He didn't move when
On
he
his
did
points.
it. He said he stayed
Literally, Josh, 3 minutes, 1,000 points.
because it
How
auto
did
wins.
this game get released?
So I have a little bit of info. So
It's not a horrible game.
It's not a terrible game,
It's not
but
their
I
point
have.
system was flawed.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the early Xbox games. So, like me and a couple coworkers were obsessed with achievements for a while, and what we found is games that were released early in the Xbox life, they especially multi-platform games that were on Xbox and PS3 and the regular Xbox. They didn't like achievements. They didn't even know what they were going to be, and like Microsoft just had this rule was like
It was an afterthought.
yeah, so it was a checkbox, right? It was like you have to get achievements, and so people just be like, fuck it, what are we already keeping track of in the game? So in Avatar,
That
it's like,
makes
well, you're already
sense.
keeping track of combos. It's like, what do our combos go up to? 5. All right, 5. Give them the 1,000 points because nobody cared. So what we found, one of us bought Avatar, went around the office, no joke, we all had Xboxes at our cubes, and would go and just like load it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool, you got 1,000 points. All right, pop it out. Went through and literally just the entire office got 1,000. And then sports games were the best. If you bought
That's
anything
the other
2K6,
2K. Josh
the
was gonna
first
do
year,
that.
because they didn't care.
He worked at 2K and he knew that. He goes, "You need to let me borrow NBA 2K6 because if you go on YouTube, it's
Yep.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then it's nothing but like NBA titles from 2K.
Yeah,
Like 1,000 points if you play a game. I mean,
yeah. You can do everything in one game of basketball. If you extend the quarters to 5 minutes, you can get every achievement in one quarter with 2 players. Because then the other thing about basketball is you're controlling both sides if you play with another person.
Right.
So it's just like get him a triple-double, get him 15 steals, and you've got 1,000 points.
So I had this, and I did it, and I was excited. And I told Sean, I said, "Hey, you got to do this." He's like, "Well, we're coming to your birthday. We'll do it." And we just couldn't hold back anymore because it was just killing me. It was so funny because he was giving us shit still, like, "You're not gonna get there." And like, you know what we did last night? We played Portal 2 till 2 a.m. and got another 600 points. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna make it." And then it just kept going, and then we're like, we got to tell you.
I take these
It's
challenges
very seriously.
But isn't the irony in all this is that don't you all fail if one of you loses? So
Yes.
isn't it in
Right.
the best interest to have
we all
everybody
do it.
succeed?
Yes.
But the competition, you just want to see somebody fall.
No, I didn't. I wanted them to succeed. I genuinely did want them to succeed because I already knew I was going to.
So we put the game in. So they came over the birthday, and I'm like, because the other guys hadn't done it yet. We're like, well, screw it. You guys want to go over your points? Let's try this out. So we put Adam. Actually, we're going to film it. We're going to put it up on YouTube so you guys can see this first fail because it was awesome. This achievement is easy as hell, and Adam somehow managed to die.
Yeah,
The Avatar one?
Because it resets. So there's the bonus, you have to get all the way to 50 combo. And if you die, it resets.
Yeah.
And it has to be within a certain time or something. Or
Yeah, it's like
Whatever.
any combo.
Well,
Like,
there's
if time
one
goes by.
situation really early on, I guess, where there's
Right.
enemies coming at the right
because then
exact
the
angle.
game got hard.
Yeah.
And that's what was funny. It became like this weird puzzle game that you had to jump and shit. And I was like, okay, this sucks. And I'm not getting any combo points. So let's bail. Start over again. And he did. And then round 2, though. And then Sean did it. And then Jason, okay, man, I'm in.
So
Because you almost still didn't believe it. You were watching it, but you still didn't believe.
Yep. So first and foremost, a big thank you goes out to Dan Camp, who was there, and very proud of you, Dan, that you didn't sneak into the room to figure out what it was.
He's a listener, and we didn't want him to know what we were doing.
So, Dan, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's what we were playing while you were there. Secondly, a huge shout out. I am so proud of Josh LeBrot for finding this. So proud.
And it was so easy to do that.
You are so proud. I am so disappointed in all of you that your first instinct wasn't to go on the internet and go, I bet there's an easy way to do this, especially for a video game thing.
Josh did from the get-go. He knew there was an easy way to. There
is a thing called Google, and it can help you.
Right.
Yeah,
and we're all
there's got to be there's something to be said for just doing it the old school way and just.
And I wanted
earning
to
the points.
I'm going to tell you, I am incredibly proud of the 1,300 points I earned on my own total in the 30 days. But because I also did Avatar: The Last Airbender in a 30-day period, I ended up with 2,300 points.
Nice.
I honestly wanted to show him I could do it. Because honestly, when he threw this challenge out, I know it was for all of us. But if you listen to the shows, you know me and him we go back and forth a lot. So to me, it was like, I'm going to get him out of multiplayer.
No,
I'm going to get him to have to play some shit. And I took it that way.
There are achievements that you can get for multiplayer.
They were gone years ago because I start with that. So it's like,
so go back to Black Ops or whatever.
Yeah. It was time. Yeah, it was just time played, and he knew I was going to have to do it, and I did. I started playing DJ Hero again, which I missed playing. And there was some other stuff. I was playing. It was like Sean. I was playing games for the sake of that, and not having fun I wanted to be having. Yeah.
But I'll say the flip of that is I played NHL 2K6, and I don't like hockey, and not only did I have fun playing the hockey game, learned a little bit about hockey. How about that?
Nice. If you punch with your left arm, you can actually knock out more teeth.
It's crazy, yeah. And if you knock out 200, you get 1,000 points.
I like it.
But it adds another, like, if it's done correct. Like, I think Avatar is terrible in that respect, like that part of it. But
absolutely.
If you do it correctly, you can add something to a game that it almost became a game in and of itself, even with the basketball games and the football games, where it was like, here's a game that I'm not going to play. Like, why would I play a 5-year-old basketball game? But if I'm aiming for a very specific goal, it made this, like, crazy, stupid set of circumstances really, really fun.
See, I missed out on the whole achievement thing.
You play PS3.
I'm a PS3 guy.
And yours are meaningless.
So we get trophies.
And they don't mean anything.
Yeah, and then most achievements on iOS are just like, oh, you touched the screen. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, we had to tell that story. We've been delaying for weeks now telling this story.
Yeah, we'll put up the video of Adam, which is pretty funny.
But I am so incredibly proud. I honestly thought this was going to crash and burn and be the death of the challenges, but not only did you guys all step up, I'm so proud of you, but I think, ended up with somewhere in the realm of the 7,000 points for the group.
That's impressive.
When we aim to get 5. So
the game's up in my office now at home,
Yes.
up in the corner. I'm so glad I bought it now. It's an homage.
It's this great story to tell.
It is really.
So, we had to tell that story. However, a couple of things. First and foremost, podcast is sponsored, and thank you very much to our wonderful friends at Golden Road Brewery for supplying.
Thank you guys
beverages.
very much.
Love it.
Some IPA tonight, Point the Way IPA, and some of their Hefeweizen, which is some of the best Hef out there in my opinion.
If you are in the Los Angeles area, please come and check them out. They have some wonderful beverages you will enjoy. But the real thing that we need to get to, the meat of this evening, is actually our good friends Jay and Sean.
Oh, okay.
You guys,
Hello.
are
It's
so much.
actually pronounced.
hi.
It's pronounced Shay.
Jay?
Or sure. No, I got nothing.
You got nothing on that?
I was going to say Jane.
So I like Jane. That's
Okay.
Can I start calling you Jane?
Sean, you can call Sean.
He's in.
Jay and Jane.
I like it. It's good. So, we have not been shy on this show about talking about a mobile app called Where's My Water. It's a game from our friends at Disney Mobile, something that we have all loved. Definitely a game that I've played many, many times through myself.
And me and you have both tested.
And we have tested. I am very proud to say I like to test on a regular basis over there.
Yes, you do. And I will say, Jason in particular, a big reason that Where's My Perry has unlimited overflow bonus.
Yes. Influence in the game
And
world.
and is
one
to date,
narcissistic reason for all. At a
to
time.
date the only person I have ever met who has said, "Hey man, that overflow bonus shit's really important." Nobody else cares but you.
Much like the achievements.
Achievements.
Much
You know
like
where
the
it comes from,
achievements.
dude.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I like challenges.
You want to see
You
the
like
higher
specific
score, man?
things.
So Jay and Sean are here because they work on the team, not just work on the team, but really have actually created the game. You guys are part of the core that are behind the game. Sean is the game designer of the game. You're the one who leads the team designing the levels, kind of helping spec out what some of the mechanics are going to be and how they're going to play together. And Jay, I don't know how to say it other than you're the man behind the water. You
One of
are
a few.
You are the guy who came up with the initial concept of the physics of how the water is going to actually work, right?
Well,
Is that
yeah,
correct?
partially. I mean, a lot of it was a collaborative process. We had a whole bunch of brainstorms about what this game could be, and I kind of latched on to the water idea and presented a few concepts, and then with a couple other people, we were able to really get to where water ended up being in the game that we released. So.
And since then, it started as water, and then we got poison water, and then we got toxic green goo, and then I'm messing up the names, and I apologize.
That's fine.
There's no official name.
And then
Yeah.
we got steam,
Yeah.
and then we got some mud, and what am I leaving out?
Water balloons.
Water balloons.
Fans.
And this is just this game.
Converters.
I'm not just saying that because you guys are here. I'm definitely a very, very big fan of the game. It's super, super fun.
It is.
It's simple. So if those people who like quick pick it up, you can tackle something then put it down. This is a great game for that. For people who like challenges, there's definitely some levels that are super challenging,
And it's cheap.
and it is
It's $1.
Yeah.
I think if
You can
you,
get a collect call for that.
I think if
Wait,
You get your
Do
do
money's
people
worth.
collect call anymore?
From
Yes.
prison? Yes,
That's
yes,
true.
very much so.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you were to spend money on the entire franchise that you guys have created, I believe you would spend $4, $3,
I think it might be $5.
$5.
Yeah, you did it the right way.
Okay, $5. And let me tell you that $5 is probably worth 80 hours of entertainment. I mean,
I thought you were
it
gonna
is-
go. It's worth $6.
Hey,
It is worth.
that's our only goal. When we go into meetings, we say, let's make this $1 more valuable than it costs.
I like it. That's good. That's
Great,
good.
great
I
margins.
live life
Great
to
margins.
try and live my life $1 more valuable than it is.
$1 at a time.
Yeah.
So one story I definitely want to tell right out of the gate is Where's My Water has had some incredible success. You guys have had some great success, financially for the studio, and then also just with the critical accolades from it. So much so that, and I also want to iterate, you guys are incredibly humble guys. You know, like I think you, and as long as I've known you, none of you have been like, oh yeah, we're the awesome, team that created this. It's huge. It's been number one in the App Store multiple weeks at a time, at different stints, as well as Where's My Perry, the spinoff. And the funniest thing, I was there the other week, maybe a couple weeks back, and sitting around chatting, just hanging out as I do sometimes over there, and I see this block. You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And this block is just a gray block, and it's got an Apple logo on it. And I don't know a ton about the mobile, app game world, but I think, I've kind of what's this? And it's got this thing written on it. Correct me, I'm going to get this wrong. Game Design Award, Apple Game Design Award,
The Apple Design Award.
Design
Apple
Award,
Design
yeah.
Award.
Yeah.
Where's My Water won the Apple Design Award, and this thing is an incredible achievement. This is
This block.
it's an award. It's like
I'm still on this block thing in my head. I'm waiting for you to tell me it does some cool shit.
It does some cool
actually
shit.
does.
It actually
Apple
does
block.
something
It
really
does.
cool.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, tell him. What is it?
So it lights up. There's an Apple logo on it, kind of like on the back of your computer.
Right.
And so
Not your computer.
Not oh yeah,
It
you
will
use
never
PCs.
be my computer.
On the back of on the back of a modern young American's computer, which would probably be an Apple MacBook
kids.
Pro.
Sean, with that,
Oh,
you're
the
welcome
kids.
back anytime.
Oh, the kids.
Anytime.
No, but like the back of the computer where the Apple logo pulses.
Right.
This one has a little apple on the top of it, and at first we thought it was kind of cool because when he touched it, the apple like lit up. We're like, that's neat. But then we realized that if you don't touch it, if your hand's like roughly in the vicinity of this cube, it lights up, which leads us to everybody likes to walk up to it and just wave their hand or do the fake magic trick. They go like, bah, and they fling their fingers out, and then the thing lights up. I don't know. You know what? As I explained it, sounds a little less cool than what it. It's amazing.
Or Apple's monitoring all your moves right now,
Yeah,
and that's
that could
the
be part
idea
of it.
behind it.
But,
But like,
that
wow,
might
it really
be it.
senses my hand in the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. What the hell?
And it knows
Every
my
once in a
social
while-
security.
Every once in a while, I see it light up, and then it turns red and looks around.
I was going to say, does a head pop up?
But it's totally cool.
But this is the award is definitely very cool. It's a cool design, and it's very sleek as Apple's design is. I think the part of the story that sticks with me the best is this is like the Oscars of mobile game design, right? Like this is a coveted award. Apple gives out how many of them a year?
3, I think.
Something like
Well, 3 for mobile games a year. Or mobile apps, actually.
3 for mobile apps a year. There are how many apps uploaded every year? I mean, what are we at now? Like 500,000? If
that.
not
Oh no, I think they're about to cross. They just crossed 1 billion
apps?
or 1 million.
I think it's 1 million.
There you go.
1 million apps.
Hey, one of those letters.
You're
It
off
could
zero.
have been
It's
a
fine.
gazillion.
There's an illion.
I
in there.
don't know.
There's an illion.
Billions of downloads, but
So, that's probably relating to hundreds of thousands of apps now being uploaded a year. And you guys, your app was awarded one of 3 awards for the best design by Apple. That is a huge, huge honor. So congratulations.
thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely think that's deserved. But the best part of the story is actually that these guys are so humble. It's kind of just sitting off to the side, kind of just hanging out there. It's not on display. I mean, it is, but it's just sort of chilling on a filing cabinet next
Where
to
else
their.
would they put it over
You know,
there? I've
I
been
don't
there.
know.
Where would that go exactly?
Where would you
Bare
put your
bones.
Oscar if you got your Oscar?
No, all sorts of places. I carried it in my pocket for a
Hold on,
while.
this is a-
like literally
I
sticking
wasn't-
out.
I wasn't
sticking
going
out,
there with it.
sticking out the side of my pocket. Yes, I could go there too.
This is a G-rated podcast.
I started G, but trust me, it could have went tons of places.
Well, it's funny because we had it on our center table for a little while on top of, because when you win that, there's a couple other little rewards that come with it, like a MacBook Air and a couple other things. And so we had it on top of that, just sitting on the table. And we also put our snacks on the center table. And we had like a bag of chips that was open that we wanted to keep closed. So I grabbed the Apple Design Award and put it on top of the bag of chips to keep the bag of chips closed.
And you guys
So
said-
it's
That's
functional.
stuff I
It's
would do with an
functional.
Oscar. That's all I'm saying.
And you guys said at one point there was like some vendors or somebody that came through and they like saw this and were like, "Oh, this is oh my god, this is amazing!" And you're like, "Oh, what is it? Oh yeah. No big deal."
Yeah, no, it's an amazing award, but it's a great thing. It's a cube, and you can
like,
use it
what
for
do you-
anything. So
It's a good paperweight.
You guys know you won it, and that's probably to you too is the important thing. Hey, we won this award. It's online. Everybody can search it if they want to know we won.
yeah.
This is cool.
Well, and it's like one of those things too. I think where like we're just so kind of head down doing what we do that like when these things happen, we're like, really, that happened? Like this is amazing,
right.
and then we got to continue working. It's awesome thing, but like it's
on to-
surreal
you're-
almost.
You're on to the next thing.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it gets so much so that people will talk to me sometimes and go like, "Oh, I just played the latest update to the game." And I go, "Oh, cool. What'd you think of the mud?" And they'll be like, "Mud? It had fans in it." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that came out." Like, because you're so focused on what you're working on especially with the immediacy of iPhone development. It's like when you're working on a console game, you're working on a movie, it's like years, and then thing comes out, and there's this moment where you can kind of just like go, wow, this is crazy.
Take it in, right, yeah.
When Perry came out, it was like Perry came out on a Thursday, and then Friday we were like, all right, so we got to fix some bugs and get ready for the next update to Perry. It's like it's more
so rapid.
yeah, it's so rapid that you don't really get that moment to like take it in and go like, oh, this came out, and I guess people liked it. We had a lunch. We did. We had one lunch where we ordered Mexican food, and I think we had some beer.
Yes.
We like pulled out some beer, and we sat in a room, like a big like kind of conference room, and we projected the App Store, and just was refreshing, trying to wait till it could go to number one. We're like, maybe it'll go to number one during lunch while we're drinking, and it didn't. And so then it was just this anticlimactic moment. We're like, all right, well, guess we're number 4.
Going
Fuck
back
it.
to work.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The release date for Where's My Water was just about a year ago now. September?
September 22nd, I think.
Okay, so we're coming up on a year. About 11 months this year. And I don't know if you guys can say any figures or numbers, how many how many downloads, any
A
money?
billion.
Yes.
We've already cleared that up, Jason.
Yeah, Jason, we talked about the billion thing.
Yeah. I actually don't know like any of the specific numbers. I know that it's been downloaded millions of times, and then on top of that with free. I mean, if you look at like any free app that's been in the top 10, it's just millions there as well. So I don't know the exact numbers, but it's been downloaded a fair
It's
amount
like
of times.
crazy.
You know?
I remember talking to Tim about it, and he was like, "Oh, it's
Tim
really...
is the.
Oh yeah, so sorry. So Tim is like our boss and is the creative director of the team. I think is the
which is called
Creature Feet.
Creature Feet.
like it. I can't say it right because I'm so used to.
Feature Creep?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's where the name comes from.
I know. That's what I hear. That's what I hear. Sorry. Continue.
No, but I was talking to Tim about it once, and I remember asking him, like, I was like, "Oh, it's successful, you know, like a #1 game." And I forget what I compared it to. I think I compared it to the game before, Jelly Car 3, which I think had gone #1 or was in the top 3.
It got up to #2 at some
Like,
point.
yeah, it was successful, and he just kind of was like, "No, it's a lot bigger than that, actually." And he's a very humble guy too, so he didn't, you know, he wasn't about to just like smirk and go like, "Oh yeah, it's huge," but he just was like, "No, I think you're reading it a little bit wrong. I think actually it's gigantic."
We're kind of a big deal.
yeah.
But I think, you know, from working in another division of Disney, from my perspective, it's very interesting because I think for the first time in Interactive's history, I believe, we've seen intellectual property, you know, original IP come out of that branch of the company that has spawned. It's a character. It's spawned a franchise in and of itself, right? This is like not just games, but you've got plush toys of Swampy and Cranky and Sally.
Allie.
Come on.
First Pecho, and now
I'm like
Sally.
the worst fan of your game. But you know, you guys have done something. You've created intellectual property that has gone into other divisions of the company, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's one of the first times that's happened for the interactive branch of the company.
Well, I know the one day it sort of hit me how big. I knew it was big. You can go in the App Store and see it's big. But when we were it was actually the first time I went over to test. We were coming over, and they were walking across the street from marketing, because DreamWorks is right across the street from consumer products for Disney, and they were walking across the street with this huge plush alligator. We're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They're like, I guess they're kind of big now, huh?
Well, that was.
I guess Angry Birds has stuffed animals, so
that was the coolest thing, is just seeing like a character that we helped create turn into these like things that you can hold in your hand and go, oh yeah, we
tangible.
We made this game here.
I mean, it's Disney doesn't invest money in just some random character. Like that earned enough notoriety, got enough of a following that the company itself said, yeah, that's worth some money in some other areas, and that in of itself is just a giant pat on the back. So, congratulations for all the success, you guys. I think it's incredibly awesome.
So something I like to do, and it's just because I'm usually curious about, is your guys' like background. Where how did you guys get to where you got to, and doing this stuff? So drop some knowledge on the people listening and myself.
You do it.
All right. So I actually minored in game design when I was in college, and I majored in creative writing.
What college?
I went to USC.
Okay.
So just kind of down the street in LA, and
how awesome would it be if you only minored?
Yeah.
I graduated with a minor.
That's interesting.
And then what? No, you don't get it. I just got the minor.
Just minor in game design.
And then I just kind of chilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, man.
What
I was in LA.
What do you do?
It was awesome. But no, so I minored in game design, but I actually I met kind of my into the game industry in a fiction class I was in. I met a guy who was part of an internship at Disney, actually, at Disney Interactive. At the time, it was called Buena Vista Games.
Oh, that was a while ago.
It was probably 6-7 years now. And he was like, "Hey, man, do you dig video games?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm 20." And
do you dig video
games? Yeah, he's probably more eloquent when he said that.
Like I said, did you go to school in the mid '80s?
Yeah. He was like, "I got this
dig
thing."
video games, bro.
I was like, "Gag me with a spoon."
Creative writer.
But no, so he told me to apply for this job, and it's this internship, and so I came into Disney's console division in creative development. And I started as an intern coming up with concepts for big console games like Wii games and DS games and stuff like that. And then ended up managing a couple different internships out of the creative development department for a while. And then I actually left, and I got to know Jay and Chad, who's on our team, and Vincent, who's on our team, and Tim, all were in the console side with me, as well as past guests Joe and Mike.
Yep.
Mike Castellino and
Joe Vance.
Joe Vance. And so I met those guys over in console, and I ended up leaving after spending about like 4 or 5 years in creative development. I wanted to go to a developer, and I wanted to do iPhone stuff because at the time I was playing a lot of Xbox Live Arcade games and PSN games. And then when the App Store came out, I like fell in love with it and was like, this is what I want to do. I want to make these games. And so I left and joined a couple small startup companies doing iOS gaming. And then I got in contact with Tim, or I kept in contact with Tim, and Where's My Water shipped and started to do pretty well. And he called me and was like, hey, you know what? Like when we first, right when you left the company, there wasn't really a place for you, but now I think we can get a game designer to come in. And so I came in, I think 2 months, a month or two.
End of November, beginning of
December,
December,
like after the game shipped, and he was like, hey, we need somebody to come and lead the level design for the, kind of the live updating of the game. Right. And so that's kind of my story. What about you, Jay? Where did you come from? Let's start with your birth.
I was born in Oak Lawn, Illinois.
Oh, it's a pleasant story.
Yeah, it's an all right town.
When did you get the tattoos? Can we talk about the tattoos?
I was 2 years old. My mom forced me to get tattoos. No, I'm just joking.
I'm not going to lie. The tattoos are kind of sick, and I had just noticed because when we were E3, I'm like, well, I'm not going to fucking stare at the guy's arms. I mean, I know I love ink, but it's like there's a point where like, okay, I've gone gay. I'm going gay. But the one arm it's like an homage to Nintendo.
Yeah, really. I mean, on
it's
my
pretty sick.
I just actually, I'm not even done with the full tattoo yet, but I just started getting it probably in January, and it's Link from the original Zelda game and Nintendo, and Mega Man from the original Mega Man game, and those two are in 8-bit, and then there's a little bit of more tattooy stuff around them, but it's really my sort of homage to what got me into games in the first place.
That's awesome.
Two of my favorite games of all time are Zelda and Mega Man. So,
but can we talk about how you have my name tattooed over your heart? I mean, maybe we should do this after the podcast, but why?
Let's talk about that
is
later.
what I want to know.
I mean, we can talk about that later.
Do you know another Sean?
We thought that was a given. I don't know.
It actually says Jane, right?
Yeah, it says Jane. Yeah. So anyway, Sean, Jane. I went to DePaul University in Chicago, and I actually didn't even know that you could make video games. I thought like people just did that like secretly. And
you thought there were elves.
I thought there were elves.
They didn't teach you a lot of common sense at DePaul.
No, it's weird. This was before DePaul, but then I got into DePaul.
Now, he actually minored in common sense.
I minored in common sense, majored in video games.
Yes.
And I did that, and then I went to grad school at DePaul as well because I couldn't find a job in Chicago, and I couldn't leave Chicago yet. I wasn't ready.
What year was it?
2008, I graduated my undergrad.
2008, okay.
Yeah, and then I did my master's at DePaul, and I worked with Alex Seropian, who started Bungie and created Halo on a project called Devil's Tuning Fork, which was just for the Indie Games Festival, and it ended up placing in the student competition. And so through that, I met a few people, and then Alex became the VP, was it?
He was the VP of Creative Dev and was my boss.
Was it Sean's boss?
Over at Disney.
So, and they were starting up a similar program that we had done for that game, and similar to the think tank program that Sean was originally in. And I was told about it, and they're like, you should apply. And so I did. And then Sean became my boss because I got the job there. And then, which is really strange now that we work together, because I dislike him so much.
Who does?
True. And I've been trying to get him fired ever since I hired him. And now I have no control over it.
But you can now. He's got the tattoo, and it's sealed the deal.
What am I going to do? He's going to run me over with his motorcycle.
Apparently, Sean's trying to learn a program to take my job, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But yeah, at the end of that, Tim, who is the creative director of our team, came over to make Jelly Car 3 to mobile and asked me to come with him to actually work on porting that game, and then we just made Where's My Water. It just happened. Right,
just like a poor explosion.
It was like, so that's my background.
That was actually one of the cooler stories that I've heard though about that game. Just that inception, and just the think tank inception, and just we're gonna lock a couple guys in a room, and hey, dude, by the way, you got to come up with something in a couple of days to pitch, or you might not have a job kind of thing, or just come up with something cool, guys.
They told you that. They would have kept you around.
And it's definitely a testament, I will say, to Disney in a way, because if you look at our team right now, myself, Chad, Jay, Vincent, Matt, another one of our artists, we're a team of about 15, and 5 of us, Jake, all came in as interns. And so it's, in differing years and maybe at differing departments. And then Tim, our boss, came out of QA. And we have 2 other guys on our team from QA. So out of a team of 15, more than half of the team was from, an entry-level position at Disney and kind of now is working on this huge, giant, crazy game. So
Which
it's
awesome.
like...
That says a lot for the internship program. For
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's very cool.
That was good.
So, Sean, you mentioned that you are, we said you're the game designer, and you are working on the level design and making sure the puzzles are fun to play. I come over occasionally, make your life a little bit more difficult.
It's true. Not because of what you do with the puzzles, but usually because you walk in our general area and pass gas.
Yes, just around and just kind of make myself generally
I've seen him wet
inappropriate.
himself.
Testers aren't supposed to go past that line, sir. Go back.
I do want
to
to
the other
say,
side.
I do want to say that testing there. I love the setup, and I haven't done it too many places, but I will say testing there is particularly interesting because you sit down at a little table and have this room, and they give you a phone or an iPad to kind of play the game on, and you're hooked up, and you see. It's not very well hidden. It's this giant camera sitting like
Not
right
hidden at all.
at your face level.
It's like the size of a human head.
It's big. It is a giant security camera. And, clearly what's going on is they're looking at you. And, at first you're kind of like, it's unnerving, but then you kind of get into the game and you could ignore it. And then you'll kind of, shift because you're playing or whatever for, an hour. And then all of a sudden you see, as you shift, the camera goes,
You can't run from
and it,
us.
looks at you. And then you're like, it's like someone's watching me and I'm not sure where. And then you kind of realize that they're right next door. And that's when the real fun starts.
Until you start making some jokes and then they're chuckling behind the wall.
Yeah, and then
that's when
eventually
it's
you
good.
start hearing laughter next door, and eventually I'm sure people get pissed that we're not actually playing the games. But it's definitely
Her name is
interesting.
Liz.
Were you part of the original playtest where we were actually in the room, standing over your shoulder, looking at you play?
You've been to a few of
I've
those.
done that a
I
couple
think.
times.
Yeah.
A
That's
couple times.
funny.
Yeah,
Really?
it's like we're the developers, or no, I'm sorry,
We're
we're not
not.
the developers. So just say whatever you want to say, and we're just gonna watch you.
And meanwhile, I'm,
whisper.
very, very interested in just 6 of the levels. You know,
Well, you have a
no, I'm
notepad?
not a developer.
You're sitting there with a notepad taking notes as they're
And I'm
playing.
whispering to people and telling them to come over when they're on their levels.
Don't worry, this is a psychology study. Don't
Yeah,
worry
no,
about it.
don't.
But let's talk. I want to talk about that though. I mean, from your guys' standpoint, how is that? How is it that hey, you need to go do this and what are you picking from that stuff? How is that experience for you guys?
100% important.
Yeah.
You cannot play that up enough.
Yeah.
Especially with a physics game. So with a conventional game, with an FPS or something like that, it still is incredibly important. But it's even more important for a physics game because when we design puzzles, we can only direct you so much, and you have the ability to dig dirt and move water and do whatever you're going to do. Right. And I would say there is at least 2 to 3 levels, if not more, a pack where we have this perfect puzzle and everybody in the room plays it. And everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is so much fun! And look at how cool this thing is!" And I had to figure out how to do it. And then we put it in front of a playtester. And they just drag to the right, and they beat the level. And you're like, oh, God, that was the worst level ever. And so when we look at those specific situations, we're like, all right, do we exploit the fact that you can go to the right, or do we just block it off?
Right.
And I would say I've been meaning to take a screenshot of a level day one and then take a screenshot of a level after we've play tested it.
That's a fun idea.
Just to see how much they've changed, because it is, just night and day.
Because you guys test yourself before Jason or myself come down there to even test the game.
Oh, yeah. Correct. I don't think there's a level that goes into those play tests that hasn't been played by pretty much our entire team, And
I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the interesting thing is you're gaining more and more perspective from people. More people are trying things that maybe you guys haven't thought of, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just
We're
that
so
many
close.
more
Like
attempts
unlimited overflow?
Yes. It's just that many more people trying to break it or seeing where it would break or where it's succeeding.
Or even not, because we have... So the guys from QA are great because they're great level designers, one, but they're also great because that's how they play games, is their mind goes to,
Dissect
how do
them.
I break this?
Right.
And so they'll go and try and break it. So even just having somebody... we'll have us who, I would say we're more savvy than the average player minus maybe present the two of you. But then the average player, we're probably a little bit more savvy. We've played it a lot more, so we can see what the puzzle is.
Right.
And then we want to try that puzzle and see if it's fun. QA guys want to break it. And then there's just the average consumer who's like, well, I just want to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to do trial and error, and I'm going to do this. And that's where you really see the flaws in what you've kind of created.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
And they're always too hard. Every level is too hard. When we make it, even if we try to make the world's easiest level, it's too hard. And then we play test it, and we can see, I swear to God, in the first second, somebody like puts their finger down, and we go, oh, that would make it easier.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's every single level. It's like, that's too hard, and then that's how you fix it.
So you guys are
Perfect.
really dissecting when you're watching what's going on and just looking for those things and like, oh, okay, crap there. We got to do that.
I, like for us, the actions speak way louder than the words. You know, you can watch somebody play a level, and then after the level, they'll say something, but you saw them play it completely differently.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
you know, you just have to really watch exactly what they're doing and,
Right.
and kind of go that way.
So Jay, you are what's your title over there?
Currently software engineer.
Whoa, wait a second. He is selling himself short. He is somewhere there is manager in the title because he is manager.
Manager is just my nickname.
He is lead manager of software wizardry. Is I believe
Is it a
what
technical
his
title?
Yeah.
Our team has grown a lot, and I've kind of gravitated towards kind of trying to lead the engineering team. But I was one of the original engineers on Where's My Water, so engineering is my main focus. But because our team was so small originally, I'm also very interested in the design aspect of things. And the original 80 levels in the game were designed by about 4 people, and one
including
of those people was me.
engineers.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had this moment the other day where you guys released an update for Perry, I think it was. And I always like, whenever it's one of your games, I always like to go check out what was updated. And a lot of times with many apps, it says minor bug fixes. But this time I had a little smile on my face because I thought, I'm actually getting to see Jay's work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because what happens is we do all the engineering, and then we have it QA'd, and they're like, everything's good, it looks good, we can go. And then it goes live, and millions of people download it, and then, you know, a certain percentage of those people experience problems, and the next day you come in, it's like, here's all the bugs that people are complaining about on iTunes, you know, with the reviews, and so you have to come in and just start grinding away on those.
So is that what it is? Because I was going to ask, there's no... That's the only problem I see right now with mobile app development, is there's not a chance for me as a consumer, if I didn't know you guys, to call you up and be like, hey... this sucks, or who do I email at Disney to say I found a bug in one of your games? That doesn't exist, right?
Well, it does for
we do
Disney,
have
actually.
Does
yeah,
it?
we have a group. No joke, they sit right next to us. There's an office, and there's like 3-4 guys who literally get on a phone, and there's a number. I don't know where you find this number, but there's a number you call, and a human being answers the phone and like has an iPhone with them. Is like, all right, sir. So what you want to do is you cut the dirt to the left. Like, I
Seriously?
didn't know that this existed.
And
There's literally
That's
a
old school
5
Nintendo.
people.
Had
And on
that.
YouTube, now that we have YouTube, there's like helper videos for each level, just so if somebody has a really
That
really
your
big
team
problem-
has done?
Yeah, we create the videos.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
wow.
amazing.
And we give
to
them
me.
to that customer service team too. But like every once in a while, like it'll get quiet, which is very rare in our office. But it'll get quiet, and we'll hear these guys, and they'll be playing. And the best is they're playing games from like years ago. Because if you're playing Pirates of the Caribbean 1 for the Xbox, and you call this number, these guys are like, all right, they pop in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, so they have like
They
this
sit there.
crazy ass collection of
Hey,
games.
hold on. I just want to say one thing. I actually have a copy of Pirates
know
of the
you do.
Caribbean 1 that I kept around. That game's fun. Bethesda?
Well, let me tell. Do you want to know some trivia about that game?
I would love to. I like
Pirates
that
of the
game.
Caribbean
It
1.
crashed more than any other game I have ever played in my life.
It was supposed to be another game. It's just a reskin.
shell.
It's not even a reskin. They don't even have the characters. It's just they changed the name. So what happened was when the game came out, or sorry, when the movie came out, nobody at Disney expected the movie to be as huge as it was, and so there wasn't a game. Like, you know, Disney can be rather conservative with when they, you know, super support something. And so the movie comes out and does ridiculous, and they're like, all right, well, we're planning the sequel. And there was a push of like, well, we should put out a game. And so they rebranded. They took a game from Bethesda, which I think is supposed to be a sequel to another Pirates game that I can't remember off the top of my head. And they said, well, we'll call it Pirates of the Caribbean, this game. And so it's like a good, solid sequel to another pirate game.
That's funny. That is funny. No, that game, I don't know if it was just on the original Xbox, but that game definitely, it had a bug when saving and things that would literally just crash the whole machine. It's like up to a certain point, like you couldn't beat the game. Like you get to a certain point and then
You should
would
put it
just
back
crash.
in and call these
Call
guys.
the number. Ask them.
That's a great idea. That's a
I just
great
want to
idea.
find obscure Disney games to call them like, hey, dude, this
All right,
doesn't work.
so I got a Super Nintendo and I've got Aladdin, and I want to know how to pick up a boo.
Do
Dude,
you
there are
still
some good
have
games.
A Super Nintendo.
Yes. I do at my desk. Actually, I have.
Oh my God.
Oh, we have
I
all
love
this.
that.
Oh, you should.
Oh,
you
man.
if you guys ever come to DreamWorks, you know the setup I have next to my desk. We have 5 original Atari 2600s.
Yeah.
It just turned. It all of a sudden turned into this donation pile
Nice.
of consoles. We have an original Pong.
I bought
Right on.
I
Yes.
bought a Nintendo Wii solely for the Virtual Console. Like I haven't had a Nintendo Wii, and I don't own any Nintendo Wii games, but I downloaded the original Zelda and a Zelda Link to the Past so I could play it, and that's it. I don't care about any other Wii
That's
games.
awesome.
Well, we had our video game club, and so it was
Which you were the president of, and you failed miserably.
because you elected me president. I
What
did not
happens
want
in
the
the video
job.
game club?
You don't want to
It
know.
was the-
You don't want to
It
know.
was the
I do. I
CGI.
kind of do.
It was a classic video game club, so we weren't talking about just any video games. They had to be like Nintendo or Super Nintendo, maybe Sega Genesis.
And I'll say, I've never finished a Zelda game in my life. There's something wrong with me, but I can get like 30% into every single Zelda game ever and not finish it. Everybody
what we
knew
did.
this, and I said, hey, we should have a club where we play through A Link to the Past and we talk about it. And somehow I became president of the club.
Because you had the idea.
And then I was held accountable when I stopped playing it because I got bored.
The man with the Link tattoo should have been president.
And that's the
Nobody
thing.
brought it up.
I was standing back going, guys, I don't want to be president. I was forced.
I don't think I had a Link tattoo
Into the
yet at
position.
that time.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
that's why.
But it was in there.
Yeah, it was in my
Well,
blood.
it's true.
in your
Before
blood.
you got the tattoo, you had never heard of the game.
I never heard of the game. I just went, hey, I want a video game tattoo. What do you like?
Pick one. Hey, so Sean, you mentioned that it's loud in your workspace, and I've seen your workspace, and I want to talk about that for a second. I think a lot of our listeners definitely are kind of in the animation world, which is either cubicles, individual cubicles, or offices. Let's see. So DreamWorks kind of has a variety of that.
It's a cube office kind of space thing.
Feature sort of has a variety of that. Pixar variety, and same here.
They want to give you your own space, but amp it up so it's not too cube-esque.
Yeah.
They don't want
Like
to
half cubes.
Yeah, they don't want to call
each
it a
other.
cube. They don't want to call it a cube.
That's got
Cube's
like a
too-
negative. yeah.
Exactly, you're too office space. But if we, you're in a fucking cube. Don't let anybody fool you.
There's one entrance, except for
So-
the walls.
So you guys have a different setup, and
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I find it interesting. So it's more of like a bullpen kind of a setup, and I
Yeah.
don't know enough about. Is that a typical thing to at game studios? Is that a good thing for you guys? A bad thing? What's successful? What's not?
So I will say that when I first met Tim and Jay and all these guys, we were working on the console side, and there were cubes there. And there's not as many anymore. But there was a creative director over there, Fred Marcus, a really smart guy who's now a creative director at LucasArts, I think. And he was very big on things need to be open. We need open spaces for collaboration. And so he was a big proponent of we need to knock down the cube walls because that just keeps us in our own little zone, and that's not what we're doing. And so around that time, he moved his entire team to one desk, and they just sat up their computers, like a big long table, and they just sat up their computers. And then I had the brilliant idea of I was like managing this intern group that Jay was in and all these guys, and I was like, I'm going to go sit up there with them in the intern room. And it was funny because at first, when I first came there, like everybody's like, oh man, now we got to be all like buttoned up. But really what happened is it like put me on my shit because now I'm sitting there with these guys, and if I'm like dicking around, then they're going to look at me like, who the hell are you? You're up here like being an ass.
The big thing was that we all had to be there at 9, and Sean almost never showed up at 9. It was mostly 9:30, 10 o'clock. So
I show up on time now, Gil.
yeah. Well, of course you do. No, but the bullpens, I think, for game development, specifically because it's so cross-disciplinary, is just essential. Like the one part of it that feels like it probably could use a little work is that you never have the time, or sometimes it feels like you never have the time to just close yourself down and get work done. But it is amazing because if you need to work with an artist or a designer, you just walk over to them and you don't feel like, oh, which cube were they in? Do I have to go over here? Do I have to go over here? So I think it works really well for stuff.
And
like
also
games.
with our team, the way it is, it's like we're very much like ad hoc sort of meetings. So 9 times out of 10, if we set up a meeting just with like the group of us, the meeting happens before the meeting actually like we get to the room.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like if I was in a cube, I would miss out on half of the like fun conversations. One, just about like, hey, what are we playing right now? And then also the conversation of like, hey, what's the next game going to be? Like Perry really wasn't decided in a meeting room so much as it was decided by like us having lunch together. And it was like, hey, this would be cool. Oh, lasers.
Yeah.
You know?
And I get the impression that your guys' team, and I don't know if this is just a testament to the personalities or you guys have been together for a while, but your team is incredibly close and all have a lot of similar mentalities of, you're pretty laid back, you're pretty fun guys, everybody's pretty comfortable with themselves. And I do wonder if part of that is the fact that 8 hours a day, every single day, you're spending not closed off, but sitting right next to these other people.
I mean, I'd say a big part of that comes to working late together, too. Like, when we were crunching on stuff, you get this weird sort of, like, in the bunker mentality. And I know I'm doing, like, a terrible disservice to all of the wonderful men and women who serve in the armed forces who actually are in bunkers. But when you're making a crazy cell phone game, it's kind of the same thing. It's, like, exactly the same, actually. But the idea that you're working late and we were around each other. I saw Jay more than I saw my wife for like 6, 7, 8 weeks,
It was horrible.
It was the worst thing. He smells
Delicious.
Like tattoos.
I
I
think it's
like ink.
I think it's a common thing because it's the first game job I had at Genuine with Mike Yosh, who's at Naughty Dog, and all those. Actually, everybody in our cube of 6 animators who sat in that bullpen style thing. Actually, it was even tighter than your guys' bullpen because yours is pretty open. Yeah. Ours was they had knocked down the cube walls and it was a row and it just had those long desks. It was one long desk. So me and Mike, like it was 3 of us on each side and we were back to back. And that back was like you had enough space to walk somebody between us. But that was if you leaned back too far. No joke. If you leaned back too far, you'd hit like one of the guys who's at Disney, the one who does the Pirates Online game. Is that Disney Interactive? Like, who handles that?
Disney Online.
Disney Online. Guy Dave Chaparino. I think he's still there. I mean, he left Genuine, went there. I think it's been 6, 7 years now.
Why wouldn't you make pirate stuff all day long?
I know.
Wait a second. Do you like pirates?
No.
No, not at all. But if you lean back, you were hitting the guy behind you. And I think what they're touching on is exactly it. I do so much better in that environment than how this setup is here at Disney Toon. Like, if I was in one of those cubes that has the wall, that was just it would drive me nuts.
So our setup here that's interesting is we have individual cubicles, but the cubicles have sliding doors, so it's pretty much you can have 4 walls but no ceiling. So it's this very bizarre, kind of closed off, kind of not, kind of awkward.
And I give DreamWorks got away from like, and they do this bullpen thing. So right now I sit in a cube area of 4 people. And we just have the corners, and we all have these big cubes that are nice, but it's all open. Yeah. And it allows us to have like this big space where we have a TV and all these games. And it's nice to be able to turn around to my TD or the artist behind me and either shoot the shit, like you said, what's going on or whatever, or talk about shots or whatever the case is, compared to being like, this, okay, I mean, it's cool, I can get some work done. And,
I think the other thing too, like for me, is like, if you're a new person coming in, you don't know what to expect. Like when you go into an interview, you're expecting like, all right, this is straightforward. Like we interview people in suits. Like we're in the game development industry. Like we interview people in suits, and when you come in, you don't know what to expect. But when you're in an open area like that, like a bullpen, you see a person who, like you expect to either be your boss or somebody else, like calling somebody else a dipshit, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is the kind of environment this is.
I really want us as an industry, and we're all in a similar industry, kind of graphics, computer-y related stuff. I want us to all get away from dressing up for interviews. Let's be honest.
Let's just wear shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, what we wear to work, is I am dressed up with jeans and a long sleeve.
If my shirt has
shirt.
Buttons,
you're dressed up.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
If you
what
what
we're wearing now, what we're wearing might not go with the Octodad shirt. The 3 of us, could probably interview. Probably not.
Cover up those tattoos.
But this is what I would wear now. If I left tomorrow and Pixar called, I would go.
The last time I interviewed, I didn't do tie, but I actually stepped it up a little bit. And I'm disappointed in myself. I really am, because I think I came in and people were like, well, who's this snooty jerk?
Because we did that. They walked a kid, they walked a kid down the aisle past all of us open-air guys who were dressed, I don't know, it was hot as shit that day in Woodland Hills, and we're all like
So
in
you were
shorts.
all nude.
And he's...
Nude game development.
Sock. You had a sock over
Where's
your-
that studio at, and how can I work there? But they walked his poor ass to the end of the hall in a suit, and it was just, everybody stopped. Everybody
You're like,
just
who's
like...
this guy? It's your new CEO, basically.
The best thing
our
though is
CEO
I got
didn't
hired.
wear.
I got hired from Sean by a phone interview. He never even saw me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
love
And
it.
I
So
don't
he was
know.
nude.
He was nude.
I was nude. Hello.
But
you
then when I came back to the Where's My Water team, I got interviewed by Jay in a Halloween costume.
was dressed-
So I think you won.
I was dressed as Jim McMahon.
Yeah,
had
you
a
were. You were
mullet.
dressed as Jim McMahon in a mullet with a headband and
That's
sunglasses.
True
And I think my
Chicago fan.
first thing, you walked in and said, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" And I just went, "What the fuck are you dressed as?"
Jimmy McMahon.
But you know what? This brings up a great point that we've talked about on the show before, and it's something I taught at Full Sail for a while in Orlando for a couple years, and I used to tell students about the communication and the relationships you develop and stuff, and the politics of what we do and everything else. It's because of the crunching. You're in that bullpen.
Yeah.
Would either one of you had want to been in that bullpen late at night with a dick? Or
Yeah,
a
no,
douche.
exactly.
And I don't mean outside of me just going, hey, Jay, you're a douche. And
Yeah.
but an actual guy, you're like, I can't fucking stand him.
No, be hell.
And even if he was good, you'd be like, trust me, we can. I will take a monkey.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been there. I don't care how good you are anymore. Get the hell out of this room. And I still stress that anybody listening to the show who's trying to get into the industry, God bless, work on those skills. If you don't have those skills, start to work on them with somebody.
Is this important to you?
It is. It's so important to me because some people I've worked with, and it's I just can't stress that.
No, I'd
enough.
rather work with a cool person than who's like kind of talented,
Right.
than a jerk who is super talented, because you can teach the cool person to be a little bit more talented.
Exactly.
You cannot teach an asshole to not be an asshole. It just doesn't
That
happen.
never
It's
goes
just in
away.
your genes. Yeah, it's like, sorry, you're stuck.
So
Words of wisdom.
we're going to tread lightly on this next territory here, but I am interested in hearing from you guys. Maybe a little bit of whatever you can say, and don't press the envelope here about what's next for the franchise for Where's My Water, and then kind of what you hope to see mobile development just personally across the industry kind of grow into be. As the computers aboard our phones become more and more powerful.
Crazy. Yeah.
One question I had specifically for you guys is Water and Perry have been 2D games.
Yeah.
And, there is a lot of computational physics, and I'm sure happening, and you're pushing that graphics card. It may not be quite as much as with 3D geometry being pushed around. So I'm curious if that is an artistic choice that you guys are sticking with as a studio, if you're open to other things, kind of you as a game designer, what you're hoping to push further for mobile, of whatever you can talk about.
No, totally. I mean, I think the one thing that I can say, like blanket statement about Water and Perry, is that they are definitely, neither of them is going away. That as early as, or as late as, 3 hours ago, we were sitting in like marathon meetings about what's next for Water, what's next for Perry. So it's one of those things and it's something that's crazy, and especially to, coming from a console side, of the fact that this game came out a year ago and we're having conversations around, all right, what's next? Right. What's the next big thing? What are we going to do? What are we going to do next year? What are we going to do?
Created a brand.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's become bigger
right.
than a game, And then as far as the 3D stuff goes, I mean, I think the big thing for us is I think we had a conversation about this before, that I think when I think of ideas right now, I think of them in 2D. It's just how my mind works. And so I'll think of something in 2D, and then I'll go like, oh, well, what if it was a 3D game? And I'll try and like maneuver that around in my head. I think the big thing for me, so the one blanket thing also is that when it comes to what our next step will be, it's really cool that our entire team is not ready to really rest on its laurels and go, hey, our next game has to be this, or it has to be that, or, oh, Where's My Water success, so it has to be 2D, and it has to be animated, and it has to be physics, and it has to be
a part 2 or part 3. You're open to whatever.
Yeah, like nobody's asking us for that, which is crazy, which is the first thing that I thought people would be. I thought everyone would go, okay, cool, this was a success, now do, a 0.5 version of this. And instead, they're just kind of like, hey, you guys make cool shit. Like, make something else cool.
That's awesome. And I think that's something that is a testament, again, to what you guys have done is you have earned your own creative freedom, to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
Which is something very rare in the creative industries.
Well, you earn it till you fail.
Yeah.
As it turns out.
Well, okay,
We got it this round.
Yeah, let's at least say
We got it this round.
for the foreseeable future, you guys have freedom to explore. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean,
think so,
I think
yeah.
so. Even more so than I would even imagine anyone would give us freedom to explore. Like, it kind of boggles my mind. But I do think the big thing, like, for the future of kind of mobile games, I think it's super exciting that these things are going to get more and more advanced and that the phones are going to get crazier and crazier with what they can push and what they can do. The only thing that kind of makes me nervous, and just a little bit so, is I really like that we work on a team of 15 people where we all feel like we have some ownership of the game. And I don't, in like the back of my head, I'm like, God, I hope this doesn't blow up so fast that 2 years from now, we're talking about a team of 150 people making a game where I can't be a game designer. I have to be a scripted environment designer, and that Jay needs to be so specialized that all he's cared about is fluid dynamics in a specific, like, I do like the fact that we're very broad in what we do, and we all have some ownership. And I think that I brought this up to Tim. I was like, God, that's the only thing that kind of makes me nervous. And he said, no matter where the technology goes, there's always going to be a niche for these types of games, for games that are made by small teams and have a lot of like TLC in them and are just made for a wide audience that isn't looking for the most state-of-the-art crazy, it's got 150 input buttons, and more is looking for a fun game that anyone can pick up and play that's difficult to master.
I believe Adam calls them poop games.
Poop game.
Yes.
Poop games.
My poop game is Facebook, though.
Is it?
Mine's still the Oregon Settlers. I can't get away from
that.
that.
Game is so depressing that you play that. So Jay, very specific question for you. Language of choice, programming language of choice.
C++.
Don't say
hands
that.
down.
Don't say that to me.
You got so much
Don't
control.
you
He's
say
old
that
school.
to me.
There's
It's also incredibly convoluted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess you could maybe even distill it down to C. C++ has a lot of stuff on top of it that makes it easier to do object-oriented stuff, but it's just like when you use Java or C#, it's like you don't have the control that you have in C or C++. You just go, okay, you can clean up all my shit for me, and then eventually, my shit'll work. But
You know who you are right now? You're the kid. I'm like standing at the free throw trying to shoot little baskets, and you walk up to me and you go, hey, asshole, and you just slam dunk over me as I'm trying to learn JavaScript.
that is my goal
You
in life.
son of a bitch.
Specifically towards you.
You know what? A nice little language that you don't have to worry about anything and it's completely robust. Python.
Python. I actually love Python. Python is the scripting/tools language of choice for me because you do get so much stuff done so easily. You don't have to get into the low-level stuff. And that's the thing. You need the right tool for the job. If you're trying to write
Definitely.
a file system that just does a whole bunch of shit on different files, like you don't want to use C++. You want to use Python because it's
Definitely.
easier to access all those files.
For sure. This is, again, very geeky, and I apologize, but one specific thing I want to talk to you about. So definitely dabbled in iPhone development, Objective-C, the whole Xcode IDE, all that stuff. And one thing that has been incredibly disappointing to me, just from my level of coding experience, and I was a CS minor, so, a fair bit, but I hate memory management. I hate having to manage my own memory. That is something that should be done for free for me. I'm a lazy coder. Do you take care of your own memory management? Are you a good coder?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a good coder, but
But you'd say you're the best.
Are you
I
a
am the
clean?
best.
Are you a clean coder?
Well, the thing is with C++ is like you need to manage your own memory. So if you're creating something on the fly, like a quick prototype or something, and then suddenly that code ends up in the game, it's very easy to leak memory. And so for like something like that, C# or Python or anything like that's a lot better. But if you have the right system for it, then it works just fine.
I see what you're saying. All right, I can appreciate other viewpoints. I can.
That's a rarity.
Yeah.
I have a question for Jay.
Proceed.
When did you move to a Mac?
Oh man.
Because you just bought. So just to lay some groundwork here, Jay just had a terrible, horrible. He's kind of an idiot situation.
I've had that a few
trying
times.
to purchase a new MacBook Pro Retina.
Yeah.
And now thinking about you, I'm like, you strike me as a guy who's like, PCs are the best.
Oh yeah, all through actually up until probably 2008, I refused to use a Mac. For me, I was completely Windows, Visual Studio all the way, and I still think Visual Studio is the better IDE.
And you can get achievements in Visual Studio
yeah,
now,
I mean,
which is just amazing.
Rather than make a better version, they go, you compiled code. Here's 5 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you did a for loop. Here's 15 gamer score.
Yeah, so I switched over, though, because I took an iPhone class, and I was like, if I want to even have the option to do this, I need a Mac. And a Mac can run Windows, and so when I bought my first MacBook, I only ran Windows on it. And then eventually I saw the light, and now I refuse to boot into Windows.
You know, it's actually the same thing for me. I was a PC guy all through my whole life through college. Built my own PCs in college, and then at some point when they did boot camp, it was like, wait, I can have both?
Right, exactly.
Why wouldn't I buy a Mac then? You know, and then same thing. Eventually, you're just like, God, Windows. Nah, this is just not.
And
as
I'm sure
nice.
there's a way to do, and it's probably not that difficult way to have OS X on a PC.
You can.
But boot camp, all you have to do is they go, do you want to install Windows? And you go, okay, yes, I do. And here's the disk, and it just does it for you. That's the genius of Apple. They just make all the stuff that people don't give a shit about simple. Click this button.
So, with the success, I know, knowing you guys a little bit, I know you're very, very happy right now. I know you guys are both very content with what you're doing. Maybe, would you say it's too much of a stretch to say at the moment you're living a little bit of a dream?
That's not a stretch at all.
It was crazy. Today we were talking about something, and somehow like dream jobs came up. Like, oh, what did you always want to be like when you were a kid? And what was crazy, the first thing is that Chad, one of the designer programmers on our team, said straight up when he was like 10 years old, he's like, oh, I wanted to be a game designer. And everyone just like their heads exploded to go, you're
Is
working
he like
the
18?
job. Yeah.
Like he's that young enough to like
to have video games when he was 10.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But then I almost wanted to say, like, this is such a stupid question to ask a bunch of people who
Love
make
what they're
video
doing.
games for a living because, like, yeah, what did you want to be when you grew up? I don't know. I'm fucking doing a pretty awesome thing right now.
Yeah.
So maybe this.
I think the reason I ask is, something we try and ask every one of our guests that tackles new things, comes from different interesting areas, is there are people out there who probably look at what you guys are doing and think it is the dream job. In addition to that, there are people who may not be interested in your specific position, but are interested in a certain area and attaining their dream job. And I think the thing we ask everybody is, what advice? It's a big question, I know, but what might you put out there for them to kind of say, like, here's what worked for me. Here's advice on how to get to where we are, or just achieve your dreams in general.
I mean, if you want to be a programmer, you have to get a lot of tattoos, apparently.
No, actually, you have to sit in a closet for 18 years and program. No, I didn't do that. No, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is just passion. Like, anytime we're interviewing new people, or the thing I just think about is like, can you see their passion? And I hope that, and I think being on this team, that I've shown my passion. I still have passion, but it's like, if you like really want to do something, then you're not like a robot. You actually have these like really innate feelings to do what you're doing, and I think that's what got us to where we're at.
Yeah, so I mean, I totally agree with that. I think the two big things I'd say, like from a practical standpoint, is get an internship for sure, and I can't stress that enough. Sitting with Jay, where both of us came from internships. And then make games.
Yeah.
Like, there is so much out there right now. Like, it's stupid when you think about it. This is kind of like the, early to mid 90s for film is where games is right now. Where just the tools are just there. They're cheap. They're free. You can download Unity for free. You can download Game Salad for free. Don't do that, though. But yeah, you can download all this software for free. And even if you're not a programmer, for like $15, you can download Unity, read a couple tutorials, and buy a book that you can read on your freaking computer, and you can learn how to make cool shit. And that, to me, what happens is, especially people who are like in college right now, who are like, oh, I need to major in this, or I need to, like, it's cool. I went to a game design school, and it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun, and I was way too young to appreciate how cool it was when I was going there. But that being said, everybody who graduated from my school had the same exact resume that I did. They worked on the same 6 projects. And it's even worse now because the schools are becoming more and more ubiquitous. And now you've got 15 people that come out and they're like, oh, this was my thesis project. This was my capstone project. This was where I was trying to, make a game about feelings. And then the person who stands out to me, and I can point to every single person that I've had a hand in hiring and every single person that I've completely dug talking to, is they worked on some crazy-ass passion project and went, this is this stupid game I came up with where it's like you fly but your wings are on fire. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, you made a game about a leaf. I want to hire you and have you work with me because you're crazy.
That's what I mean. I don't mean, like, as far as passion's concerned, I don't mean, like, oh, I love video games and I played all these games and I love RPGs and this. I mean, like, if you're working on games on your own time, I mean, obviously you like making games, so it's
for sure
stuff like that.
Yeah, like get away from the idea of like, I love video games and go to like, I made a video game.
Yeah.
Because it's so
There's a
basic.
difference.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
it's like
huge
everybody
difference.
loves video games. It's almost like when people, people applying to Disney, they're like, oh my God, Disney meant so much to me as a kid. It's like, well, yeah, that goes without saying. Like, I'm sorry. If
Everybody
you lived in
loves
this
Aladdin,
country.
right? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
here.
it's like, it was great, and I agree with you. But if you're like, I loved Aladdin so much, I made this video game about Aladdin, I'm like, all right.
Now we're talking.
So
Yeah.
be proactive, I think, is the biggest thing, and don't let that excuse of like, well, I'm not going to a game school or this or that stand in your way, because when you look at it, these games programs haven't been around for that long. And so if you look at the makeup of any design team or any team, half of the people, if not 75% of them, didn't go to school for it. They just gave a shit. And that's really, I mean, in my opinion, that's like 90% of the challenge is just giving a shit.
That's awesome. We're going to wrap up here in the nearest future, but some housekeeping. Some things we want to chat about.
Is there?
first.
Is
I think
someone
so.
getting fired?
Yes. Jack, you're done. So
Finally.
there's some things.
I've been waiting
He's
for
free.
this moment.
Fuck.
There's a couple of quick things we just have to mention. We talked about this one briefly earlier in the beginning of our little pre-show. Arma 2 mod called, what's it called?
Nerd alert.
Daisy.
DayZ.
That you're dying to play now.
I know.
He's
I'm like,
saying that,
I
but
wanna
he's like,
play, but I
he's
don't
like,
know
I
what it
haven't
is."
heard about it.
You just gave a diatribe on C++ and why Python tools. I don't even know half the shit you just said. And we mentioned a video game, and
That I
that's
haven't heard
Nerd
of.
Alert.
All right,
Link
that I haven't
tattoo.
heard of.
So Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. You sound you know about as much as I do on this, but if I understand correctly, Arma is a hardcore military simulator shooter.
It is to like an afterburner game what Microsoft it is to Call of Duty what Microsoft Flight Simulator is to Afterburner.
Right.
Like, it is the shit.
Right. It is very carefully thought out
Yes.
and meticulous, and so somebody created a mod for this called DayZ that is a zombie apocalypse survival game.
Yeah.
And so it's first-person shooter, third-person.
I think
Third
third.
person. It's
Yes.
third person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if you think about the zombie games that have existed out there, Left 4 Dead, the zombies with Call of Duty, some of the big ones, there actually hasn't really been a simulator, kind of an open-worldy simulator of what would happen in a zombie apocalypse. I think maybe the closest correlation is the Walking Dead Telltale games, but those aren't anywhere close to open world. That's more zombie apocalypse, but...
Yeah.
what would you do? But this is definitely like, you got to be careful. If you shoot your gun, zombies will hear it and start coming out. But there's a zombie coming towards you, so what do you do?
That sounds amazing.
And it's slower. Like, all their games are very like slow and meticulous rather than, well, they're zombies, so why aren't they fast and why aren't there a million of
Right,
them? And it's
right.
more like, maybe there's 3.
Right.
And that's eerie in and of itself.
And you have to, it's very hard to find new weapons from what I
Yeah.
understand. You have to collect health, which is very, very important, or med kits and bandages and things. But I think the thing that's interesting to all of us is this thing is incredibly popular.
Yeah.
Incredibly
This
popular.
isn't a graphic-driven game, too, mind you. Anybody listening, if you're hoping to open it up and it look like Skyrim, you're playing the wrong game. Because it being an open-world simulator, You're getting better than Minecraft. You're getting better than Minecraft, but you're also not getting super high graphics just because of the scale of the world. The world's huge. So don't expect that.
But this game is so popular. This mod is so popular that the mod developer, I believe, has actually somehow contracted or worked with Arma that he's actually going to break it off and it's going to become its own title now.
Yeah.
And so much so that at Gamescom, Sean, I think you were mentioning, right?
They might bring it to consoles,
which is
They're
huge,
talking
which
to,
is crazy.
That
all
game
the
comes out on
consoles.
PS3. I'm in.
Yeah,
Well, it's
I bet
crazy.
2 games
you know what you could do
that'll
is
be
just
one of
chuck that piece of crap and get yourself an Xbox.
them. Well, here's
true.
the thing with that is it's not going to happen.
So incredible popularity with this DayZ mod, which I just wanted to briefly chat about. I might check it out.
A lot of the guys that play Call of Duty, that's what they do now.
Yeah,
they all are playing that. And
It's just so interesting.
I watch
And it's
on
crazy
YouTube. There's
because
tons
it's
of videos.
so specific. Because Arma 2 is a specific game with a really core niche audience. And then this guy decided, because there's lots of people who mod. Half-Life is a big one to mod.
Absolutely.
Which also, going back to if you're passionate about games, make shit, you can mod all these games for free or for the cost of the game itself. Like Half-Life comes with the engine. I think you can go and download it and make Half-Life mods. And when you mod a game, and it just is short for modify the game, you can create and script entire new sequences in that game, or you can make entirely new games that are essentially kind of just built on the engine of the game, if you can take it as far as you want.
And that is exactly what the people who work at that company do. So you're already training yourself to do
the
that
thing.
job.
Right.
And Counter-Strike is a great example of that. Was a game
Team
that
Fortress
was
2 and Team Fortress 1. They were both mods from.
Yeah, they started as mods
off Half-Life, as well as it makes me. Days actually reminds me of Battlefield. As far as the mods that came off Battlefield that were huge, and one in particular was called Modern Combat, where it was a group of artists who got together. They even pulled other artists in who liked the project. This is all on the side, but modeled high res shit for the engine. And they had so when you played Battlefield, you're like, oh, some cool tanks. Check this out, and it was all these insane modern. It was like right around the Iraq War, Gulf War, and it was all those weapons and everything else. And they picked that game up as well. They're like, oh, this is more people are playing this than ours. We should start talking to them now. Because this is amazing.
Isn't that League of Legends is what used to be Dota, or it was based off Dota?
Yeah, I mean, they took. I think it wasn't as much a mod with that as they loved that game. That game wasn't getting supported, so they're like, we're going to make our own game.
Exactly.
And now they are bigger than Dawn of the Ancients, which was the game that they were inspired by.
Exactly.
And it's crazy, and that's one of those other ones. But it's so weird because it is such a specific game that they picked to do this in that you wouldn't expect. Like, every once in a while I'll read, on indie game blogs and things like that, oh, there's another Half-Life mod. There's another, somebody did something with the Unreal editor or something like that. But so strange that was this Arma 2 game, and it's just people are still talking about it.
I think you would think with that, though, if you're going to do a zombie game and you're going to think of scale, and big studios like Bethesda, I'm sure if they were here, they'd be saying this. Any studio who goes to take on these open world games are sitting back going, ooh, are you okay, do we really want to do this?
Yeah.
Because anybody who you guys are friends with, or anybody you know who has worked at a studio on one of these titles, I mean, it's a monster.
Yeah.
You take a normal game, put it on a couple 5-hour energy drinks, some crack, and a little shot of heroin, and you're getting close to what needs to get done to get it done. So if you're thinking about, well, I want to do this open world zombie game, well, shit, what am I going to do this in? And you can look at something that it wouldn't take me much to switch out these army guys for some zombies that are randomly spawning in this huge open world.
And you're literally scripting those zombies' behavior because everything else is already done for you. So you can really focus your energy on making it right.
It was just, somebody slightly smarter than us. We can all sit in this room having done and going, damn. Because it's right on the cusp of, that would have been an easy thing to spot. The game was there. They had already built the big world engine.
And the project lead on it was an ex-producer of console games. I forget, but he worked on some AAA kind of games that you would have heard of. The only thing that sticks out in my head is like a Tony Hawk or something like that, but I can't remember exactly what the games were. But he had worked in console development as a producer and took on this project just kind of as a little labor of love.
That's cool. That's so funny.
Zombies are huge, though.
So the second of 3 things before we wrap up is we cannot call ourselves a nerd podcast without talking about the Mars Rover Curiosity.
Congratulations.
Crazy.
And I think
nuts.
I think you'd have to live under a rock at this point to not have heard that we have landed an incredible landing, a new superior rover on Mars. We, America, go USA.
You
Power of the people.
Hey.
But there's something I wanted to chat with you guys about, which is I'm going to get deep here for a second, so bear with me.
Uh-oh.
But there's one thing that Neil deGrasse, I believe his name is, who's like the big proponent of NASA and the guy who's out there talking about how we as a nation have lost faith in space flight and we've lost inspiration because of that. And there's some truth there. I think America has definitely, after we landed on the moon, there's been this giant void of interest in space. I've caught myself at times reading a news article, and going like something, we discovered a planet, something, and I ignore it and delete it and look for something more interesting and more immediately gratifying. And I sit back and I think that sucks. Like at one point in time in our nation's history, there was not an eye or an ear in the world that wasn't glued to what Americans were doing in space. We had inspired not just a nation but the entire world.
There was also a race behind that, and I'm not sure if that's where you're going to go, but a lot of that at the time, and what steamed that forward was this race with other countries that we're going to be the first.
Right.
We're going to do this.
Well, I'm not necessarily as interested in what spawned it as what the result of it was. The result was this passion, and the result was this inspiration for the world.
I think what's crazy though is, and you said it exactly, is this immediate gratification. Like, we're not at a point yet where space is immediate gratification because everything takes forever.
Yeah,
like when somebody goes, it's going to take 7 months for us to get to this planet. I'm like, all right, well, what's the next thing? Like,
Let me know when you get there.
And now that everything is immediate
I'm gonna go
gratification,
design and build a best-selling mobile game.
well, just like you pull your phone out of your pocket and you go, I can watch YouTube videos on this.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like it's so instant that I don't think that space exploration right now has that backing, and because of that, people are like, all right, well, if you want to cut budgets for space exploration, fine with me.
So here's ultimately where I wanted to go with this. I think you're spot on, Jay. I think ultimately what I wanted to get at is, in my lifetime, I have never seen so much passion, coverage, attention given to any part of our national space program than this current Mars rover. And I am so thrilled and so happy to see that our nation has rallied behind the need to support the space industry to spark our own imaginations. I look at all of the blogs, all the tech blogs, all the game blogs, all the news sites that I check through the day, and everyone is covering the Mars rover and the success that is. And they are creating hype. And that hype is creating interest. And that interest is drawing people to learn about the project. And that is inspiring people. And that's what the space program was in the 60s. And there is something so amazing to me that that's happening right now.
It's sadly though, it sucks that you were bypassing a lot of articles, but there's a program called SpaceX that for the last 10, I can't remember how many years now, has stayed inspired. And it was inspired by a lot of the head CEOs, including the creators of Google and whatnot, who said, we have a lot of money. Let's get our friends with money. What do you guys want to do? I don't know. Let's have a competition where people build some badass rockets. And that's really been pushing. And I think that, to me, I'm more excited about the fact of getting these people with ludicrous amounts of money who are now willing to be like, well, dude, let's do our own spaceships. Mm-hmm. If the government's going to do it and they're going to disband NASA and stop giving them money, nobody's saying we can't do it. And that's exciting to me.
So, Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and who's running SpaceX, I think has a problem. And I think that his problem is he's terrible at PR. And he doesn't hire people that know how to properly get people excited. The Roadster was his one that's you got some people that were a little pumped about it. But while SpaceX is an interesting program, there's not nearly the amount of media attention to what they're doing, or Virgin Galactic, or any of these private space
10% of people probably know about that.
Yeah, exactly.
NASA's national.
And not only that, but I am so amazed. You cannot go onto any news aggregate site right now and not see tons and tons of stuff and attention about what's going on with NASA.
I think it came at the right time, too. I think it came at a time where I think everybody in the country, including the media, was just like, Jesus, we just want to win. Let's just get one win under our freaking belts. I don't want to report on another shooting or a war or a recession. It was like, finally, it's like, hey, we did something where there's no bad spin on this. Like, it's just like 100% kick-ass.
And it was like right before the Olympics or right during the Olympics. So it's like, all right,
we were all
this is a
feeling
worldly
kind of,
thing, you know?
And it worked.
And it worked.
And it worked.
No, and that's the true
That to
thing.
me is the
Yeah.
biggest thing, is that it worked. There was all this hype, and the amount of money they spent was another ludicrous amount that you get one shot at.
$7 per American citizen. Wow. So, for the cost of a movie ticket in a cheap part of the country, you get the chance to buy your portion of history, which I think is amazing. And
I'd give them $20 right now. They could get to
I
Venus.
agree.
They could have did a Kickstarter.
I think NASA should embrace Kickstarter. I really do. You get
It wasn't the last Mars thing before the previous rover that went way longer than anybody ever thought it could? Was it a failure? Wasn't there like a mathematical error and it just crashed?
Yep,
into
there was a
couldn't get it.
conversion. Somebody had put something into feet versus or whatever English units versus metric units, and there was some giant disaster that happened.
And so
as a
everybody's
result.
like, "Oh, you just put billions of dollars into this thing, and one mathematical error caused it to just explode." Essentially,
I think it's something. I am so inspired by don't get me wrong. I'm incredibly inspired by what's happened with getting this piece of technology to Mars. But I'm more inspired by what the news is doing. They're creating hype, and through that is creating like this inspiration. And it may fade 2 weeks from now. It may, but it's just so incredible to me that everyone has rallied behind this. And whoever the PR person is for NASA, I bravo, because you have done an amazing job. Hell, you on the Xbox 360 the night of, you could stream
Live.
the flight control
that's fucking
live.
nuts.
Yeah,
Dude.
and they had a game supporting it.
Yeah,
and everybody came out of the woodwork. It was like, I feel like this was that moment. Like, you hear about these bands that need to put out that record where it's like, the record company said one more and we're gone. We need a hit record, and then they put out the hit record. Like, this was it for NASA's. They
everyone
went, everybody
supports them.
Yeah, they're like, everybody, this is it. We go dead unless we can ship
And
this
if
record.
you even watch that video about what they did to land that thing,
The
your
7
mind
minutes
was
of
just
terror.
It's
blown.
stupid.
It was
Yeah.
just
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
could they really do that?
And then to
on a
take it
different
even further, I think again to the genius of the PR, that the guy behind this Adam whatever his name is guy, the rocker turned astronomical engineer genius guy. He's the guy who headed up the team, and as from a PR perspective, he's put a youthfulness to NASA. He's put like hey, this is a real dude. He looks like you, Jay. He's got this kind of greaser hair going on, a little bit of a rocker look.
He's far more intelligent, but other than that,
Yeah, he coded the whole thing in Python.
what did you? Well, no, did you hear that? Why the other one crashed? The other one crashed because of a memory leak, because they weren't managing their memory correctly.
that's your full of shit.
That's the C++ error.
It's so interesting to see what NASA's done, what the nation's done to rally behind them, and that there is this front person that like people have. When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, kids in America had an icon to look to. There was a person, there was a person you could look up to and say, look what these men accomplished. NASA's done that again. It's not there's some team of some genius government workers hidden in a lab in Pasadena somewhere that have done this. It's look at this guy. Every news, if you're a newsworthy in any way, shape, or form, so not us, but anyone else,
Completely us.
NASA is basically making this guy available to you, and he's the head of the project, and he's willing to do this, and they're putting a face to space exploration. They're giving people, here's a tangible thing that you can aim for if your life's dream is to.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was watching, and Sean's gonna love this, but I was watching on Shark Week this week. There's
I so love that you're comparing Mars rovers to Shark.
You compare everything to Shark Week every Shark Week.
How can you not?
there was a show about how Jaws changed the world and how people went out and started hunting sharks and stuff. But the character who played the oceanologist inspired a whole bunch of people to go explore the ocean, because he was like this hip cool character in Jaws. And obviously this person's not a character, but it's like the thing that's front and center in society, inspiring people to do
absolutely
stuff that they probably wouldn't think they could do.
It really is PR. It makes it a public figure to a job or to an area of expertise, and it's just fascinating to me.
Let me ask you guys. This is a general question to you guys. So we've got there. We have this rover here.
Now what?
Do you feel? Do any of you guys feel though that this was a true stepping stone in the right direction of maybe, something recent we could compare it to would be like a ship like Prometheus being able to go to another planet and whatever. So
I think the big thing is what it represented to me was like everything that I think like this country is about like we're going to take all this money and we're going to take all this talent and we're going to do something fucking ridiculous that nobody can do.
Right, yeah.
And then it's going to work. We're going to take this giant ass risk and then it's going to work. And it doesn't, like, honestly, if they were like, we're going to try and shoot a laser beam to carve USA into the moon, I would be like, that's crazy. That will never work. But if it does, I'm going to be way impressed.
I'm in.
I'll be watching.
Yeah.
The great word for it is ballsy, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some giant balls on the nation to send men to the moon.
Yeah.
There are some giant balls on the nation to spend $2.5 billion.
Not our call though.
To send this.
I didn't say you could have my $7.
Oh, you did.
I'm gonna play
No,
your
you did.
role. I'm
You
gonna
did.
play your role for a bit.
You did actually say that.
I'm gonna go devil's advocate. No.
Yeah, you voted
No.
for Obama.
No.
You said it. Did you vote for Obama?
He said nothing about $7.
That was
You
I
voted-
might
those
want
are
my
the
$7
subtext.
back.
You voted for my $7.
Hey,
back.
vote for Romney. You'll get it back.
$2. I just to me, I love the space program and I did as a kid. I can't tell what we're doing, and I can't tell if that's it. If it's just this badass PR stunt, so a couple scientists can maybe figure out what was going on Mars a bit. It's cool. I feel like no better. My favorite movie is Blade Runner. It's fucking 2012.
Yeah.
No shit. Where are my flying cars? Where what? I feel like we're not progressing certain things that I had always hoped.
There
we'd
are
be
hovercraft
progressing them.
DeLoreans.
Yes.
I will say, though, looking at it, and I think Jay saw this, is that while we were busy landing the rover on Mars, and I'm not going to diminish that, Japan introduced a dancing robot. And it is fucking awesome! It's a dancing robot that, wait for it, guys, does the robot. And it's awesome.
The worst thing I've ever seen.
Isn't that a Disneyland? Isn't that the Honda robot?
Asimov?
My
doesn't do
wife
that?
will, like, every time we go to Disneyland, she'll go, like, all right, do you really? I'm like, yes, I do want to go see the Asimov
She
show
doesn't
again.
She doesn't let me go
Wait,
to
is
Interventions. I
it's
say that
so
every
good.
time. I know.
Where is that at?
It's
Because
in
I've
the
done it a few
Interventions in
times.
Tomorrowland.
It's by Space Mountain.
And it's so worth it because not only is it a fucking walking, talking robot, but there's a whole show around it
Yes.
that stars like an Alan Alda type character. And he has a family that lives maybe like 30 years in the future where there's video conferencing like from your car.
The home of the future.
The home of the future. And then he just is also like, hey, honey, I got that new robot butler we were ordering.
That is. There's a show behind it.
There's like a whole show to it. It's not just like, hey, go and shake its hand. It's like, no, you're going to watch this performance of what your life's going to be like with a robot butler.
That's awesome. I honestly think though that the Mars landing is important because I'm like a Discovery Channel like addict, and I watch all the shows about the future and all this stuff. And there's all these crazy people doing theoretical physics that they just have shit written on a board that's just
Miyazaki.
like
It's always
Michio Kaku.
Yeah, that's the guy who it is. That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
that dude's insane, and he's just writing crazy equations, and that shit they've been working on for like decades. So they're buying time. Get something that's tangible that people can relate to, and then spend the rest of the time working on.
Well, let's admit that we blew our load when we landed on the moon. That we shouldn't have gone straight to the moon. That was
have
the
a point.
problem. Is that we should have like eased it.
Where else
you
would
know?
we have gone, Sean?
I don't know.
That's
You
my
shoot
question.
passing
you know,
asteroid, it's like-
yeah,
Yeah, but
some shit like
What
that.
I'm worried about though is the thing with the moon, and I'm sure the big argument is always this: we went to the moon. The moon's the moon. We got there. There's nothing there. We know what's
Yeah.
there now. I'm worried. We get to Mars. We put the rover down. Yeah. To me, it's the whole thing of being able to put people back up in space to make those kinds of the moon landing. Okay, can we land somebody on some place else?
Well, you have to come up with the mechanism to get them there first because
Right.
things are so fucking far away we can't even.
No, it's
fathom,
years,
you
right?
know?
No, and I understand. Well, how long did it take the rover to get there?
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
It left like end of last November. I
And
think.
some and most
And
of the
if
guys
a
who-
person is in space for that long, they're deteriorated so much because you can't.
well, what's the average time of the space station? Those guys who go up into the space, don't
Those
they
guys
stay
are
a
there
while?
for, I think it's about a year. It's sometimes like
really?
18 months. I
Yeah,
think it's like
that's what
a
I
really
thought.
significant amount of time.
They're up there.
well-
They're up there for a while, but I mean,
They're also
and
7
that's what I
inches
wonder. If
shorter
we
when
can
they
do
return.
that, what's stopping us from putting somebody in putting him under? I'm
Planet
back
of the
for-
Apes.
But would it be cool? Like, I don't even know if landing, like, I guess landing someone on Mars would be cool and there'd be enough hype behind it. But the moon was so perfect. It's like, hey, look at that crazy ass thing in the sky. We're going to put somebody on it. Like, I feel like it's the ultimate thing. So what happened is we landed on the moon, and then it was like, well, what do we do? And then one guy was like, well, fuck, we can do it again. It's like, all right, well, let's do it again.
That's the fucked up part. Like, nobody didn't. Isn't that the funny part about that? It's like, well, it's a bunch of fucking sand and rock. And that's when I look at the pictures from Mars. I'm like, was that Tulsa? You know,
Death Valley?
Dude, it looks, and that's the funny thing. It looks like that. And I realize even if they get the research and they say, well, there was outside of potentially what it could do to some religious maybe fanatics, if they find, hey, there was life, some microbes were here that potentially could start life. What else are we? And I'm, obviously, I'm maybe not talking to people who are in this field, but what else are we hoping to achieve from that planet?
To me,
do you guys know?
To me, I look at it as solely from a, excuse me, almost a sneeze.
Look at the light. Look at the light. There it is.
Excuse me, sorry. So to me, I totally look at it as expanding human knowledge. I think the feat of getting us to the moon, the feat of people walking on the moon wasn't the issue. The fact that we got someone to the moon and brought them back, like that was the amazing part, right? And that's what the nation rallied behind. I don't necessarily think that every American you talk to is stoked that there's a machine driving around Mars. I think the exciting part is that we did it. We accomplished something as a goal.
No,
to
I'm
get
there, and that's what I'm saying. But I call it PR.
Let me. I just want to keep finishing this thought. I think the thing that is exciting that you could get excited about is we're expanding our knowledge. We've gone to the moon. Going to the moon again wouldn't necessarily be exciting unless there was something to really gain knowledge-wise from going there. Well, we've been there several times. We've gathered rock samples. They're all the same. Wonderful. This is a new place. This is a new chance to really explore with a new piece of equipment that's built specifically for searching for something that could change the course of human history as we know it. And I think that's exciting. I don't know that it's instant gratification of, oh my gosh, one day I can go fly up in space in orbit. Sure, that's interesting and from an adventure sort of point. But there's this whole other like cerebral look at it of we are the answers to questions that human beings have had since the beginning of our existence could be within 2 months of us knowing them. And that is exciting.
To who? To us?
Yeah.
Do you think it's exciting to Christians in general?
I'm a Christian.
Okay, so the majority of Christians.
I think just
devout Christians, do you think it's exciting to them?
I'm a devout Christian, and I find it exciting.
Okay.
Now, religious
Let me ask you real fast. I'm just throwing it out there.
I think that if we find life on other planets, I think that there's going to be a subset of extremists that are going to be cry conspiracy theory. They're going to be offended. I think that there are extremists of all kinds, in particular, definitely religion is a contentious one because there's so many different things that people believe strongly about, to death in many instances. And, the argument here that you're getting at is, in the Bible it says that God created man in his own image. God created life in his own image. And the question is,
Adam and Eve.
Could there be life on another planet in some microbial form that, a silicon-based life form or something that we've never seen? And if that's the case, then does that blow the, if the Bible is wrong here, is it wrong everywhere kind of a thing? And, it could be that there are religious extremists that now are going to shut down and shut themselves into.
I just want to see people protesting. It says Adam and Eve, not Adam and Cyclorb. Because that would be awesome. Because that would be really cool.
And you're going to see it. You're going to see it.
I think any conversation you have about other life forms in space is like, if you just look at the fucking numbers, like the sheer number of planets and galaxies in the universe, there's gotta be, right? There's fucking gotta be.
It's a number game. It's a numbers game.
I mean, you know me,
No,
but
I believe what you believe. I just love to bring up the religion.
No, and I appreciate it about you. But I think that to Jay's point, I think that you will find, particularly in more developed, more educated countries, you will find that religious people, not just Christians, but Muslims, whatever it may be, that are from more educated backgrounds, are much more tolerant of other religions, other people, other races, and much more tolerant of the idea that what religion teaches is much more about not the specifics of word for word verbatimness, which is contentious. I understand that, what I'm saying right now, but more of there's lessons to be learned here, and I think that's true of the Torah, the Quran. I think that's true of everything. There are good lessons to be learned in every
belief in there, right?
In every single religion, and some makes
I'm a firm believer.
And
in
some make sense to other people. But my point is, I think the group that you're saying, like, if we find life on other planets, is the world going to be destroyed? No. I think
I'm not saying that, but your paragraph. We talked about God created and Adam and Eve. Okay, so one of the first things you learn even as a kid, if you go to, your parents put you into the Bible, that's a story right up front. Do we skip that? Or do you leave it for some moral
I think the argument, it's not that big of an argument changer for me. I think there's so many things that we skip right now. I mean, I think there's something right there that says, I can't remember the specific words, but if, like, you take God's name in vain, you should be stoned to death. I mean, I'm sorry, I swear during the day. I've done that. I've taken God's name in vain. I'm still here. I mean, I think we've for
walking a fine line, sir.
It could be, but we have. I think we are well beyond the idea these days that a verbatim understanding of any particular religious text.
We are.
When I say we, again, I'm pointing to what I believe is like an educated culture.
Mm-hmm.
An educated.
Would you say the majority of Bakersfield follows your belief?
I don't think the majority of Bakersfield agrees with anything Jason has to say.
Yeah, I think.
Where is Bakersfield?
Almonds. Hey,
you don't want to know.
Hey, almonds are good.
Yeah,
they
almonds
believe
are-
in that, they
almonds-
believe in
almonds are
that
good.
statement right there. So yeah,
That's the
anyways.
kind of game change, and that's the stuff that kind of interests me about this trip. Is that kind of thing?
Definitely.
Because
I completely
I'm
agree.
with Jay. Dude, the numbers game, hands down.
Yeah.
But that to me turned religion, when I was old enough to understand it, turned religion on its head for me as a person in general. I'm a Christian, but I take it as completely as a faith moral thing. I just take some morals from it that are important. I'm going to teach my child. Too much of it that I would never even remotely want to follow verbatim, and it's made me question a lot.
Any verbatim following, like anytime you just follow anything that anybody says to exactly what it says, I think is just to a fault. Right?
How many times have you gone through a tutorial book for Unity, or something, or a tutorial online, and you get to a point and you're just like, okay, I've been following this step by step by step, and file import is not an option, and then you go edit import. Oh, that's the option, or whatever it may be.
Right,
I mean, I think verbatim, it's written by human beings.
There's one thing that can be followed verbatim, and I'm pretty sure that's math, because 2 plus 2 will always equal 4.
Well, you verbatim follow the Cubs and their sort of way of playing baseball, and that's just worked out horribly for you.
You're confusing things, because I verbatim follow the Cubs as a fan, but I know they're horrible, and I know that they're never going to win the World Series. So, I like self-punishment.
You're dedicated, but you don't believe in them. Yeah, I like that.
But I will say what the rover, to me, the big thing that the rover's doing is, and I'll phrase this as a joke, but I genuinely think that this is a big important thing about it, is that somewhere there is a young Kim Kardashian who is watching the Mars rover and deciding that she does not want to be an old Kim Kardashian, but instead wants to be a Kim Kardashian, PhD. Exactly.
Dude, here's hoping.
And but I think that there's like somebody, like, I just feel, and maybe I'm jaded because I live in Los Angeles and all of this, but there's a big part of me that there are some kids now who normally would be saying, like, I want to be an actor, and not that we don't need those people, or I want to do this, I want to do that are going, I want to be a scientist, I want to go to the moon. And that's awesome, not because we don't need actors and we need scientists instead, but because there's so much to look at to want to be an actor, or to want to be a filmmaker, or even, honestly, to want to be a game designer. There's enough of those people out there.
Yeah.
And there really hasn't been a lot of scientists, mathematicians, doctors that people can aspire to be. And we need those people just as much, if not a whole hell of a lot more.
Yeah, I think, for me, exactly what you're saying. For me, I think it comes down to a lot of, I am interested in leaving my mark on the world to a certain degree, and there are certain things in life that you can do that'll never be really a possibility for you professionally. And living in America, we have the freedom to choose what we want to do and what we don't. And one of the reasons I'm in the animation industry, this sounds cheesy, but I truly honestly believe this, and one of the reasons I work for Disney is I get to help make children laugh. And beyond that, I have such fond memories myself, as you mentioned earlier, of Disney movies growing up. And I know my daughter gets to watch Disney movies, and that's so incredibly exciting. And one day, something I work on, maybe it was Kung Fu Panda and I've peaked early, but someday something that I worked on may have like connected with a kid and given them a dream, and that is, I've changed the course of human history. I've made my mark by having something that stands out that's affected other people. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about inspiring people in a way that would make your mark continually lasting. You know, it would last longer. And I think giving Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong will be remembered forever. And this guy Adam, he may or may not, in all honesty, but for the time being, he has a face and has been given this project a tangible thing to look at to inspire other people to do something longer lasting with their lives, rather than be. I love Kim Kardashian because 5 years ago it was Paris Hilton. Like,
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
the same exact.
Yeah.
That is the face of the debutante. Like, I'm rich and famous for
And
no
I do
reason other
nothing.
than being
Yeah.
rich and famous.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely hilarious. So we've gone on quite a tangent, which I love. You guys got to experience. Jack and I. Oftentimes, will bring up arguments that we don't even necessarily believe in sometimes, only to get some interesting deepness to the podcast.
That's why I went with the religion thing.
I wish he wouldn't have punched you, but other than that, I thought it was a very
In
mild
the
mannered
parking
Son
lot,
of
we
a bitch.
usually
Very
duke it
soft
out.
punch, though.
Yeah,
Son of
it
a-
was weird.
The
was
very
harsh.
last thing I just wanted to mention real quick, which I wanted to share with you guys, some news I found out today, which is I'm very happy. It's a big highlight for me in my career. A paper course that I co-wrote was just accepted into SIGGRAPH Asia.
Hey!
Congrats, dude.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
one,
much.
dude.
So
Did you get to go to Asia?
I probably will not, though it's not 100% sure at the moment. But yeah, big highlight, big cool. SIGGRAPH, for
crazy.
anybody who doesn't know, is
What'd you write?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Tell the kids.
it is no surprise here. It is basically a course on how to introduce stereoscopic 3D graphics or visuals into a studio pipeline. And I think the big problem right now is that we've focused so much on how do you make good stereo 3D. And I've presented a couple of times for you guys. Jay, you're awesome. You've been the only person who's seen multiple performances.
It's good stuff, though.
About how to make good choices for 3D, and there's nothing to shy away from, and that's what I do for a living. But I think there's this whole other aspect of looking at people who run studios, look at people who manage studios and pipelines and systems of engineering and how they play together. And there's a whole section of things to think about of what stereoscopic 3D elements will mean and what you have to think about from a managerial standpoint, from an engineering standpoint. And so it's a lot of drawl boringness in that area. But it's basically the idea of, hey, you're a studio or you're thinking about stereoscopic 3D. Here are some things you may not know about that you're going to have to think about.
And you co-wrote this with somebody?
I did, yeah. The other stereography, Vladimir Sierra, who works here at DTS as well.
Is there a lot of the stuff that were in your presentations in that? Or?
There is, yeah. There's definitely a lot of stuff there. A lot more technical deep dive into some stuff. It's actually a SIGGRAPH, going to be accepted as a SIGGRAPH course. It's in Singapore, coming up here.
And you don't get to go to Singapore.
So one of you
to
guys
teach
is
it?
going to have to teach it, right?
Yeah, so I think Vlad's definitely going, and I am not 100% sure if I will or not. Part of that will be, upcoming additions to family here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. It's incredibly exciting, and like I said, to get accepted into this is kind of for our industry, for the graphics industry, is definitely pretty much top.
Yeah, congrats.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Congratulations.
crazy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
that's
I mean,
it
a
doesn't
big deal.
quite compare to Mars Rover. That timing was
Same
poorly,
thing.
but
Same thing in my eyes.
Well, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean, like watching your presentations, like there's just stuff you don't think about. It's like when you watch a 3D movie, it's like, oh, it's in 3D. But then when you think about with all the thought that goes into like the different shots and stuff, it blows your
What
mind.
you hope goes into those shots.
Yeah, depending on who's making them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. I mean,
If Jason's touched it, there's thought.
Yeah.
And listen, I'll be the first person to say it would probably be. I am as close to understanding exactly how to set up a 3D shot as I am how to land a Mars rover on
Right,
Mars.
I like that. That's good.
So I'd say,
Great
so from your
Yeah.
perspective,
they are literally the exact same thing to me. I'm like, holy shit, that is magic. Is what I say to both of those things.
I like that.
So-
Thank you. That's made me very happy, Sean. So I think we'll probably call it quits on that note. I cannot thank you two both enough, Jay and Sean, for joining
Very
us
much
here
so.
on the show.
Anytime.
Guys,
Yeah,
yeah,
this was great.
I like to talk.
Awesome.
And I like
He's
to
a
drink
talker.
beer. So
And I like to drink beer as well. And especially like to drink Golden Roads point the way. I can
A delicious beer, especially when coupled with their Hefeweizen. Maybe the best wheat beer in Los Angeles.
That's the best plug for them we have
We're
ever
gonna
had.
make sure to pull that out.
I
We'll
will.
just use that as
I
a
will. Over and over again.
just dub it.
Well, you guys have found a permanent home on here whenever you want to join
Absolutely.
us. We would love to have
Good,
you.
because after all those tattoos, Jay actually is homeless.
Nice.
It's an expensive hobby.
Absolutely. So this has been Nerdtastic in 3D, episode number 35. My name is Jason Carter.
I'm Jack Geckler.
Jay Pecho and Sean Kearney.
It's pronounced Kearney.
God, if your last name was pronounced Carney, that would be
the
very
worst
sad
for
for
you.
you.
It would be awful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Nerdtastic, Nerdtastic, Nerdtastic